Okay, good morning, everybody. Calling to order the May MTA Board Meeting and also the annual meeting of FIMTAC, MTA's captive insurer, the first mutual transportation insurance company. First off, let's hear the safety announcement, and then, Kate, we'll hear from public speakers.
Your safety is of the foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen and adhere to the following instructions. If you witness an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and call 911 immediately. Please follow any audible instructions provided through the public address system or visually on screens in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Kate?
Good morning and welcome to the MTA's public comment session. We have 21 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would like to also remind our speakers that in the interest of time and fairness, we will limit all speakers to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep when you have 30 seconds left to conclude your remarks. Today, our first speaker will be John Padula, followed by Jack Nierenberg.
Can I just, before you begin, just a point of clarification with respect to the public speakers. I just ask that the public speakers address the agenda items, and our agenda items are usually posted, or always posted on the website. It's only fair to other public speakers that the 2 minutes that you allot are focused on agenda items and not part of a demonstration or a campaign, because it tends to be distracting and disruptive to the meeting. I know that we typically are very flexible and accommodating, but if you can address your comments to agenda items, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Padula, when you're...
All clear?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Padula. I'm a supervisor with Educational Vision Services from New York City Public Schools, as well as the chair of the Advisory Committee for Transit Accessibility. My mic seems low. I've been emphatically saying for months that equitable on-demand is not only sustainable, but it's the right thing to do. It actually offers this community a decent level of spontaneity, autonomy, and dignity, which, with all due respect, it's difficult for traditional paratransit to do in its current state. All that to say, I'm ecstatic that Phase 3 is here at last. I want to thank Chris P. for moving that ball diligently down the field and hopefully setting our new VP of paratransit up for a touchdown. I don't want to steal Rachel's thunder, but I'm sure she's going to enthrall us with a captivating presentation on the Phase 3 proposal. I do, and I hope the board supports that proposal, passes it. I do want to say something, though. I want to be clear. I'm tired of the incessant casting of aspersions by some in the community of advocates who do not use Access-a-Ride and do not have a disability. Please stop raining on our parade. Most of the users that actually use the service support this proposal. And it's a meaningful step forward. It's not perfect, but it's a meaningful step forward. And progress is being made. I want to thank Q, I want to thank Rachel, I want to thank Chris for engaging the community, listening to us. It was nice to actually be heard, have your feedback taken and considered. It's nice to know that you made a meaningful contribution, and it feels good. On that note, never mistake disability for inability, And low expectations lead to low outcomes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Jack Nierenberg, followed by Christopher Greif.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jack Nierenberg. I'm the Vice President of Passengers United. And for the record, it would be great if everyone who's been speaking at these meetings, both live and in the live recording session, are put in the board book. But unfortunately, I'm disappointed about the procurement update to remove Cubic from the being required to supply Omni for the Long Island Railroad and Metro North. And I do understand that this would be replaced by the Train Time app. Unfortunately, this seems to be restricting access to those who don't have access to mobile devices. And unfortunately, this seems to really reflect the mismanagement that I've been seeing, that unfortunately the MTA, those who were initially proposing the Omni system, did not factor in the inclusion of a student Omni card or a senior Omni card into the financial budget for Omni. So unfortunately, this really undermines the point of Omni, which was to unify the city and the region's fare collection. And this was Andy Byford's vision, to have a unified fare system. Think about how he would respond to this. And at the same time, we're still seeing Nice Bus and Beeline. They don't have the system yet, and they should have had it 2 years ago. So, and we've been getting complaints from Nice Bus as well about the delay of the Omni rollout. So I implore this board to reject the update, reject this procurement, and I would like more clarification as to how this new system that's being proposed would work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Christopher Greif, followed by Mike Ring.
Good morning. I'm Christopher D. Greif. Hope everyone's doing well. First of all, I want to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day. One thing I want to be very, very clear, and I'm glad we are going to be following procedures and show courtesy and respect, love and peace, and Soul Train. I'm here to also support on demand. As you know, you're getting ready to do phase 3. Please make sure that when you do phase 3, if we're going to be testing anything, can we please make sure how can we communicate and work together as a team? As I said this the other day, we need to move forward, not backwards. This is the new MTA, not the 20th century MTA. We're in the 21st century. Everyone will agree we need to think something new. We earn respect. We need to show respect both ways. Us as an advocate, I always show respect. And I always have to do what I do today, talk and communicate. But today I'm going to be a little blunt, not with MTA, but I don't like something that United Federation of Teachers insult the MTA. They have issues with school buses. They don't. Students who are special ed uses Accessoride. We need to make it very clear the United Federation of Teachers need to understand the MTA is here to help students to get to school on time. Let's remember that we work together. They use the bridges, they use Accessoride, and they use the MTA buses and subways. We need to remind the United Federation of Teachers, yes, you got to worry about your teachers, but you're forgetting about your students who are special ed. As a former student, 20 years ago I graduated in June, and I say this, there was always a hard time to get school buses. They don't follow the IEP, they don't follow the rules. We do, and we're in the 21st century. MTA has always to make sure the students get to their destination on Accessoride. And I thank Accessoride. I thank the MTA Accessibility. I thank the MTA with the bottom of my heart to make sure the students are there. Thank you, everyone. Happy Memorial Day.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Mike Ring, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Good morning. First, I want to apologize. I've never looked at the agenda. Starting next month, so I'll just continue with my 2-minute rant. First, Joe might be speaking about Accessoride bus stops, specifically the one in front of his office that's used to store New York City staff vehicles. The one at 2 Broadway, the bus stop, the Accessoride bus stop right outside this building, is being used right now for storage of Accessoride vehicles, MTA staff vehicles. There's no one in them. The bus stop is blocked. People are being dropped off in the street. Traffic is blocked. It's an easy fix. And I know the MTA budget is like bigger than 18 states and many nations. Interagency stuff is hard, but this is something you could tell your staff to do. Don't park in the excess ride bus stops. A separate issue, I'm speaking as a Brooklynite, a guy who lives in Park Slope. Now that the Brooklyn redesign, the bus redesign is happening and congestion pricing is happening, is a great time to get a bus to run through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. I'm not going to micromanage your ideas of which bus and where it's going to stop, but a lot of people can't climb the stairs into Smith and 9th Street. That'll be the last place to get an elevator. A simple bus that starts in Red Hook, comes to here, goes back, will move a lot of people around very easily. Thanks a lot.
The next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Miriam Fisher.
Good morning, everyone. Charlton D'Souza, President of Passengers United. So last month, I spoke at the MT's meeting. I was bumped to the back in the virtual thing, and my name is not in the MT board booklet for this month. So please, board members, can you all please put my name in there, because I did speak and I did attend the meeting virtually. So now let's talk about Omni. The shame that the Omni program is being, downsized, and you guys are using the Wasabi app for the railroad and everything. I really think that either the Inspector General or the New York State Attorney General needs to investigate why there were so many problems with Omni. This was Andy Byford's vision to have one unified system. I really think it's a shame that everything's a mess now. And so people who don't have phones, people who prepay for everything are going to be affected by that. And it's going to take longer for us to have a unified city ticket and an Atlantic ticket. So nothing seems to amaze me. As far as free speech, everyone in this country has the right to free speech. And people have a right to talk about agenda items, but people come to these meetings sometimes to bring up things that you guys don't know about. And so, for instance, I'm wearing a black shirt today to mourn the 17-year-old who was killed at the 46th Street subway station on the 7 train. And guess what? It's been 2 weeks and the surveillance cameras still do not work in that station and are covered up in garbage bags. Why is that? And it's the whole 46th Street 7 train station, all the surveillance cameras covered up in garbage bags. Why? So the NYPD could not get a clear image of the suspect and had to rely on footage from across the street. That to me is ridiculous. You guys need to do better. Safety is a joke, and nobody cares, but we do at Passengers United.
Please conclude
Thank you.
your remarks. The next speaker will be Miriam Fisher, followed by Maddie Bucky Highland.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. To the MTA, good morning. Please sign the elevator maintenance lawsuit so that people with disabilities and no other choices don't get stranded. Mr. Critchlow of the MTA board previously testified that 88% of elevators are in service. That's 12% are out. Most are privately maintained. Announcements of outages, auditory and visual, on the train, on platform. Not everyone has cell phones, which also aren't always usable in all locations. The technology is there, and this may not be that visible, but it's at Washington, D.C., the digital sign that we get about when the next train is coming, they're able to tell in real time elevator outage and how people can prepare and monitor their travel so that they don't get stranded. The technology is there to do it in real time. Bathrooms. Mark Levine, Manhattan Borough President, said we need more bathrooms open in the subway and better signage. I was told that there's 78 accessible bathrooms out of a total of 133, but not where those are open and where to find them. I tweeted or on X, the MTA, and they said, we do not have that info. That's an issue that we have to address. Benches removed at various stations, especially where the homeless congregate. Benches are needed by pregnant women, seniors, people
Please
with bad
conclude your
back
remarks.
needs, not leaning benches.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Maddie Bucky's Highland, followed by Deborah Greif.
Thanks, Kate. Good morning, folks. I'm Matty W. Bucky's Highlands. For today, I want to first speak about it as the MTA is going to vote on its annual investment report. We thank you for the courtesy and the investments that you had made to make this authority a bit safer and better. On to the topic of congested pricing. On Monday, I spoke at the Bridges and Tunnels meeting in relation to congested pricing in the upcoming hurricane season, as Colorado State University has issued an above average season. The MTA should consider exempting congested pricing in the event of a state of emergency, such as a natural disaster or a terrorist attack. But the news could have come at a worse time for New Jersey. On Tuesday, May 14th, at the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee under the chairmanship of Senator Paul A. Sarlo, Senator Sarlo suggested increasing the sales tax from 6.625 up to 7% to pay for Governor Phil Murphy's $56 billion budget. We don't know if it has the approval from Senate President Nicholas Gattari or Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin. Anyway, that's all I have to say for this month. Have a safe and healthy Memorial Day, everybody. Anyway, God bless each and every one of you. Kate, I'll send it back over to you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Deborah Greif, who will be followed by Tasha Larabors.
Good morning, everyone. Your name is Deborah Greif. I want to, even though I may not use the on-demand program for Accessorite, I am in favor of the increase of money threshold because I do have friends who use it and they're very happy, and I would love that program to keep continuing, and we can work to keep making sure that program stays in effect for the people who want and need to use it. Myself, personally, I rather use the blue and white dedicated bus, but that's my choice, and I appreciate I have a choice. I'm also very pleased to be the tester for the reduced fare / senior. Yes, I'm a senior. Yes, I really am 66 years old. And I am very happy to test the Omni on the buses and the trains. I make sure, and I appreciate that when I've asked for assistance from NYPD, because I have people who are hogging, or when I mean hogging, they're actually hugging and hogging over where the reader is, and they have helped me by seeing the person is moved, so I don't have to worry about getting into a fight. So I appreciate that you have increased police presence, and we've been given the assistance we needed. Also, as a tester for Accessorite, it's gotten much easier because it's now easier to budget. Because now I don't have to worry, oops, do I have enough singles? Do I have the change? So now I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to say that Omni is coming along. It's working. And I know that everything will eventually, there will be a one type of payment system in our region. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Tasha Larabors, followed by Jason Wagner.
Good morning. My name is Tasha Larabors. I'm from Center for the Independence of the Disabled, New York. Wanted to talk about the Omni. As a broker service user, Omni is very challenging, especially when there's a language barrier with the driver. Oftentimes, not all the drivers know that, it's okay, I don't have to pay. Unfortunately, as a result, I still have to carry dollar bills with me. On occasion, there are drivers who do understand, okay, yes, you have $0, it says $0. Some on occasion have gotten very angry and started having a tantrum like a child. So yes, while I'm for the Omni, But if in terms of explaining it to the drivers, the broker service drivers, explaining to them how it works, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jason Wagner, who will be followed by Jennifer Van Dyke.
Good morning. Good morning. We on? All right. I'm Jason Wagner, Senior Transportation Researcher at the Citizens Budget Commission. CBC strongly supports MTA's implementation of congestion pricing to reduce traffic, protect the environment, invest in our transit system's infrastructure. Insufficient investment in bringing the system into a state of good repair and keeping it there would deteriorate our capital assets, our economy, and our quality of life. This priority is paramount before expanding the system, lest the current network deteriorate to the point of frequent failure. MTA's recent 20-year needs assessment improved on previous versions. It exposed more detail about the dire condition of the system's current assets and provided cost-benefit analyses of possible expansion projects. But it did not provide the critical information for an informed public discussion about which investments are essential and what trade-offs will ultimately be made in the next capital program. CBC again urges the MTA to publish an addendum prior to the release of the capital program that includes estimates of the costs, benefits, and timelines for all assets and investment needs. These must include all projects that bring the system into and keep it in a state of good repair, as well as those in the categories designated to rebuild and improve the system. These should lay out estimated costs over the next 5 and 20 years, understanding that estimates far into the future will likely be less accurate. Right now, the public does not have a clue whether it will take $40 billion, $80 billion, or even more over the next 5 years to begin bringing the system to adequate condition. How much of a dent would this investment put in the percent of the system that is now in poor or marginal condition? Transparency is the right thing for the system, and it will help ensure the right investments are made in our critical public transit assets. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Jennifer Van Dyke, followed by Jason Anthony.
Morning. My name's Jennifer Van Dyke. I'm with the Elevator Action Group. And last month, many of us spoke about the ongoing elevator maintenance case. On May 8th, many advocates attended the hearing in Judge Daniels' courtroom. I am not a lawyer, but I'd like to share what I heard and saw. The lengthy hearing was mostly about defining reasonable accommodation. This term refers to when a rider gets to an accessible station, but finds the elevators not working. What is reasonable accommodation to get them to their destination? Your lawyer suggested that the MTA runs an extensive bus system, many of those lines running parallel to subway lines. People can come to street level and get on a bus. This is problematic. It's a problematic solution if the elevator which takes you to the street is not working. He also suggested that a person needing stair-free access could just wait while the elevator gets fixed. Now, this so-called solution brought gasps and guffaws from the audience. Clearly, this lawyer did not do his homework. If he had spent any time looking at broken elevators, he would have noticed that repairing an elevator is rarely a quick fix. Announcements on trains was something that the plaintiff suggested. If an elevator is not working, why can't the conductor announce the elevator at this station is not working, just the way they make many other helpful announcements? Your lawyer said that was far too difficult and would require a complicated script for the conductor. Judge Daniels responded that he has been on trains where a conductor will announce, "We are being held in the station due to an incident at 42nd Street." That is an impromptu announcement made with little notice and a simple script. Why is an announcement about an elevator outage any more complicated? I urge you to do your homework. Please take a ride on the subway and plan a route that requires elevators only. Come to the table with real solutions. Thank you.
Excuse me. The next speaker will be Jason Anthony, who will be followed by Alita Dupree.
Good morning, Kate, Jano, Paige, John, welcome back. And good morning to the rest of the board. Jason Anthony, proud member of the Long Island Railroad ADA Task Force. Let's talk about congestion pricing, shall we? We have seen a meltdown these past few days on New Jersey Transit Rail Branches Inc. Why is it that every time we have to see a meltdown on the west side of the Hudson, and then they always have to blame us for the quote-unquote bad service? And then get this, folks, starting July, they will raise their own fares 15%. And then next year, another 3. That's 18% right there. And then we have NIMBYs, like a certain congressman, which name I won't mention due to security reasons. While us, we already have congestion pricing right in the finish line. And then we have a certain union that's at the NIMBY that won't provide service to their own students with special needs. Let's get the facts right. Congestion pricing will provide elevators for our brothers and sisters with disabilities, like station renovations and other essential things. So let's get the facts correct, shall we?
Thank you. The next speaker will be Alita Dupree, followed by Rhonda Hudson.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Janel, Lieber, and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. Thank you for the leave to speak. It's good to be back. I state to you, I am simply an ordinary user of the subway and other systems of public transportation. And I seek to bring you positive energy. I think about the many things that were said at the committee that we did on Monday with this format. It was a good format. I think the decision we're making is correct. It's hard. It's hard. I'm going to have to wait for some more features. But I do have train time and it works. So I look forward to us bringing new fare systems into play. And I think this will help us to get it done right. Rather wait for something that's done right than for us to put out a substandard product. So I state to you that I actually am using Omni for reduced fare. I'm in that 8%. I've been doing so since it started. It works. So I look forward to your action today and your continuing engagement on this matter. How do we build the best system that we can? A renewable energy subway and the electric buses and the safest system. The subway I've used since the early 1970. I've stated that I have never been turned back from a subway station or a bus in all my years of using the system since 1970. I also let you know I enjoy easy listening music from the days of WPAT. Just thought you should know that. But I thank you. We always have to remember our system that is legendary and stately. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rhonda Hudson, followed by Kalia Heislet.
Good morning. I hope you all can hear me.
Please
My name
proceed.
is Rhonda. I'm Rhonda Hudson, and I am a New York City subway user. I have a business called Bow Business Solutions, and I am the state representative for a company called Relevate. I am listening to some of the comments, and what I'm hearing are a lot of concern regarding the discontinuance of Cubic. I'm hearing issues for people who may not have access to mobile phones, who may need to use a card. Different people have different needs for their specific, perhaps their physical limitations, and we definitely want to have a unified city in terms of how people are able to pay for access to their modes of transportation, be it the subway, be it the trains, buses, etc. I want the MTA to know that Relevate is an award-winning fintech company that moves money in many different ways. It can move money for payroll. It could be a tremendous help for the MTA in unifying their modes of providing access to people. It's able to tailor services to meet specific needs, bring services together. It is a real option for truly unifying the MTA's system. The website address to check out is www.relevate.com. That's RELLEVATE.com. I am the state representative. We've had some meetings at the state level. Please do reach out to me. My information, I believe you should have on record. We are very happy to be of service to New York City's MTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Kalia Heislet, followed by Kathleen Collins.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please proceed.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kalia Hazlett. I'm the executive director of the only travel training education system in New York State. I'm an Access-a-Ride rider, user, Omni tester, and eHail user. Phase 3 will address the passengers that are traveling from desert locations like the Rockaways. I'm currently actually in an eHail Uber on my way to this meeting. Nothing is perfect, but it gives me flexibility. And when I leave the meeting, I have the ability to go to my son's school and be a mom. When I have planned trips, I use traditional Access-a-Ride to test my Omni. I hope you all are collecting the data that eHail is as close to equality as it gets. We all know that separate is not equal, but this is as close as we are going to get. Change happens with difficulty sometimes. Not everything is easy. And I want all of us eHail users, as Eman said on our last meeting, that this increase will help riders that are in the desert areas. As a business owner, as a rider, this gives me flexibility unlike any time I've ever used Access-a-Ride. I've been using Access-a-Ride since 1999. And like I said, I'm 25, everybody. And the improvements are vast. And it has taken time. And want everyone to know, give MTA the time to make the changes and make your comments on the MTA.info website.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Kathleen Collins, followed by Monique Johnson.
Sorry to keep you waiting. My name is Kathleen Collins, and I'm with Disabled in Action. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for my ride here today. I got a seatbelt and a shoulder belt again. This is great. I've had 3 rides this week with a seatbelt and a shoulder belt and all 4 locks. And they were all on demand with Uber. I've had some trips on Uber that they did not provide me with the seatbelt or shoulder belt, and I am going to put in complaints on them. I did put in one so far. I have a few more I have to put in. And also I had one with an Access-a-Ride vehicle where I put a complaint in with Access-a-Ride, but I plan to put them all in with the other ones with Uber and also with the TLC. I did put one complaint in so far with the TLC, and they responded to that. I'd like to tell you that On Demand is a life-changing program. I started with it, I signed up around, I think it was in November, and early December, my significant other, his father, got severely ill, and we got a call at 10 o'clock at night. And he looked to me and he said, "Kathy, can you go with me to the hospital?" He was out in Queens. We live in Manhattan. And I said, "Oh, wait, I have On Demand now. I can use that. We can go." And it was really, to be there with him and this very stressful moment with his father. I'm sorry to say his dad did pass away about a week later. But during that week, every day we were able to go to the hospital and be with him. And it really made a difference in our lives. And I really appreciate On Demand. And I know it's expensive, but it really is helpful. And I use it, judiciously. In the summertime, I hope to use it more because I do like going out in the summer. So thank you for it. And just one last thing, please settle the elevator maintenance case. Jennifer really explained it well. So thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Monique Johnson, followed by Lisa Daglian.
Good morning. I'm with a lot of different organizations, and I'm an advocate for. People always tell you to follow the rules, follow the laws. MTA must forgot that 7 years done passed. People are passing away, and they still haven't followed the rules and laws that they put in place, and the rules and laws that is put in place for everybody. And I also want to talk about accessory. I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm getting bad drivers. I had one, which I do have a video of, who started vaping in the car. And as he's vaping, I started laughing uncontrollably. And as I'm laughing uncontrollably, he's marking me, calling me man, and a whole lot of other things. And as he's vaping with the thing, he's swerving in the lane. And I reported it to Accessory. I don't know if y'all did anything about it, but it's unsafe. And we have to worry about people vaping, taking us to the wrong spots, not doing what they need to do to make us feel safe when we're riding in them accessories. It's very important that we feel safe. Just like anybody here needs to feel safe when they take the trains, the bus, the railroads, the ferry. Anywhere you go, you should be able to feel safe. And everybody always talking about rules and regular laws. 7 years, y'all haven't settled this case. People are dying, like I said before. 7 years, y'all haven't followed the rules or the laws. People always twist the rules and the laws when it comes downtown for them to follow the rules and the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Lisa Daglian, followed by Cameron Best.
Hi, good morning. I'm Lisa Daglian. I'm the Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. At Monday's Super Committee meeting, we heard about the great potential for changes coming to Omni with actions you'll take today. The new system is a critical enabler of fare integration and rationalization. Will allow cross-modal fare offerings, providing more functionality and the ability for discounts. You know we like that. Will let riders use and transfer between the railroads and transit, requiring fare policy discussions and decisions at the board level. Midori asked when the right time is to start those fare policy conversations. Well, we contend that that time is now. Better integrating the railroads and transit will allow millions of riders to take advantage of all the MTA system has to offer. The best way to entice people on board is by offering them discounts and fare promotions. We're particularly partial to things like City Ticket with free or discounted transfers to subways and buses. We know that functionality exists or soon will, so let's get riders excited by considering discounts now. And yes, let's see how we can fund them with OBTA. Another critical way to improve equity and affordability is increasing the eligibility of fair fares to 200% of the federal poverty level. Our new study shows that would make an additional 650,000 New Yorkers eligible for fair fares. Every council district around the city would see an increase in eligible riders. What a tremendous relief that would be to so many New Yorkers. The Community Service Society estimates that will cost the city around $55 million to fund this critical increase. To bring it to the Long Island Railroad and Metro North within the city, as we've been advocating, costs maybe $5 million more. Raising the eligibility of the FPL would make fair fares more fair to more people. It makes sense, it'll make a difference, and we urge the mayor to get stuff done for riders.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Cameron Best, and our final speaker will be Joe Rappaport.
Hello. Based on the
committee meeting on Monday, the MTA needs to review some of the specifics of the implementation of Omni on the railroads with the train time app. We all know how great the train time app is, so you have to be careful not to change it in a way that's confusing for passengers. The same goes for how those updates will be advertised. Depending on who you ask, even on this board, as we saw the other day, Omni could mean a contactless payment, the replacement for the Metro card, or the entire new MTA fare payment system. You don't want to unnecessarily confuse riders by going against what their expectations of Omni is, especially since all current implementations of Omni across the different services that it's currently used for all have a tap-and-go system. Also at the forefront of everyone's mind should be reevaluating many aspects of the fare payment programs, especially where you can make small changes that can lead to greater efficiency gains. Spending capital dollars to reduce operating costs. I know at the moment the MTA has ruled out a tap and go or a proof of payment system, but at the very least, what they do end up implementing and the new TVMs should at least be designed to possibly allow a tap and go system to be used in the future, should it later be deemed viable. I also think C&D should have provided more information about why they've ruled out a tap and go or proof of payment system, especially given that over 50% of the commuter railroads in the United States are currently implementing or have implemented such a system. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to the board meetings today.
Thank you. The next speaker is Joe Rappaport.
Good morning. I'm Joe Rappaport of the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled. As Jennifer Van Dyke said, we were in federal court 2 weeks ago about our elevator maintenance case. I didn't see any board members there in the courtroom, though it was otherwise packed with people who use wheelchairs and others who want the MTA to improve the performance of elevators, communicate to riders when they're out of service, and offer other options when they don't get fixed. So it is an appropriate forum for board members to hear what happened here. What you missed was an extraordinary effort by your high-priced hired gun lawyer. And when I say high-priced, the last time we looked, your private attorneys were earning between $750 and $1,250 an hour. And he was doing everything he could to deny that the MTA could do even one thing better. For example, as you heard, he argued that there was no way for train conductors to tell riders that an elevator in an upcoming station is out of service, so they could adjust their trip accordingly. I would say the judge was extremely skeptical about that assertion. Your hired gun also argued that there was just no way for the MTA to offer a ride to another accessible station if an elevator was out of service, ignoring that the city has a fair share of accessible taxis that can be fetched on demand. It's time for the MTA to actually sit down and negotiate a reasonable settlement. You've done it before. Let's hammer it out and get an agreement that will result in significantly better service, just like other cities have done. The MTA also is moving toward a new phase of its on-demand accessoride program. You're going to cover more of the cost, though you're still limiting the number of rides. It's an improvement, at least, for sure. Thank you.
Chair Lieber, this concludes the public comment session.
Thank you, and thank you to all the members of the public who joined us today. Paige, Graves, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Okay. So we'll proceed to the business of the meeting, and I'll do my remarks, and then we'll turn to a couple of presentations. Thank you, everybody, for joining us at this month's meeting of the MTA Board. As this group is aware, at the new MTA, I tend to obsess about a few basic priorities. Number one is getting ridership back so that the city can recover and continue to recover. Second is delivering frequent and reliable service to our customers, our core function. And three, addressing safety in the transit system, both the reality and the perception. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the returns are in, and as you heard on Monday, we're hitting the mark across the board. That 4 million ridership benchmark on the subways, which took us quite a long time to achieve, is now routinely hit the 3 middle days of the week. I'm certain that today is going to be another day because the trains were rocking this morning. Ridership growth has supported the city's return to office surge. That is, by some measures, and there are a lot of different folks measuring this, but by some measures, return to office has now reached 80% of pre-COVID levels. Good service, reliable service was central to that progress, and I think we're very proud to participate in that. And off-hour and weekend ridership on both subways and buses continues to be strong, thanks in part to the major increases in service that we have made in the last 18 months. Commuter railroads, all kinds of records in recent weeks. You heard about it on Monday. Long Island Railroad ridership increased almost 19% in April over the prior year. The April in the prior year, the team set a new post-COVID record on May 14th, more than 260,000 customers. Way to go, Rob. Way to go, everybody at Long Island. People are loving Grand Central Madison. Last month was, by a lot, the highest monthly ridership since the terminal operated, 1.5 million passengers. And we're ready for Memorial Day weekend, right, Rob? Cannonball running on Friday, additional service on Thursday. The summer is here, and Long Island Railroad is continuing to meet the challenge. Same story on Metro North. April ridership up 18% from April 2023. 2 new post-COVID records set the week of May 6th and still growing. Average Tuesday to Thursday ridership, 222,000. Impressive, Kathy. And paratransit, the all too frequently overlooked 4th MTA operation, has actually grown the most of all, fueled by record customer satisfaction. Ridership is 20% higher than last year with 40,000 daily customers, more people than we have ever carried before, including before the pandemic. Get this, MTA's paratransit operation has almost as many customers on a daily basis as the entire Miami transit system, and 4 times as many as Cleveland's RTA. The paratransit system in New York is really a major transit operation by national standards. Now, none of this is happening by accident. We are knocking it out of the park on service. 96.4% service delivery on buses, the highest in over a year. 82% overall on-time performance on subways in April, a little below goal, but way up from earlier this year. 98.7% OTP on Metro North year to date. 99%, that is the number, the grade that I never got in school. Kathy does it every month. Kathy and the Metro North team seem to do it every month. And Long Island Railroad is literally just a hair lower at 96.8%. The best April in railroad history, other than during the pandemic when we were basically operating a lot of empty trains. Back onto our third obsession, safety. Chief Kemper talked about this at some length on Monday. Crime in April was down 23% year over year. Year to date, crime has also fallen, and we're 11% below pre-COVID statistics for index crimes. Kudos to the MTA PD, who's doing some of the work in select stations, especially to the NYPD. NYPD MTA collaboration has literally never been stronger. And of course, this is a battle we can't let up on, and we never will. Transit crime accounts for just 2% of overall New York City crime, but it seems to get 72% of the coverage. With the advent of cell phone cameras and the internet, there are going to be high-profile incidents that get people's attention, and they will have an impact on riders' perception of safety. That is understood. But bear in mind that the attention given to subway crime is also a reminder to all of us of our importance to the city. The transit system is the place that all New Yorkers use and share. It's our public square, and it's where many people, New Yorkers and tourists alike, form their permanent impressions of the city. So like I always say, we have to make it safe, and it needs to feel safe for everybody, and we got to keep pushing on this front. So on Monday's historic super committee meeting, I like that phrase, who pioneered that? Lisa Daglian. Good, super committee. You also heard an update on our super important Omni initiative. I'm not going to recap the presentation, but I am literally thrilled with the progress that's been made and the smart and sophisticated strategy that it reflects. In an environment where there were a ton of unresolved issues and unanswered questions, not to mention major cost and schedule risks. And many of those unanswered questions and risks are due to the gaps that were in the 2017 contract, which really didn't clearly figure out the cost and the process for bringing the railroads into contactless fare payment. But the project team emerged with a new approach that delivers for the customers. All the functionality of Omni, all the benefits of contactless fare payment, but without disrupting our customers by forcing them off of a system that they love, train time. And to correct the misstatements that came from the podium, we are preserving paper tickets. And that's one of the reasons that the strategy that was rolled out included an update of the machines, of the vending machines. Otherwise, if we hadn't done that, there was a risk that the vending machines that exist would have had to be taken out of service. They're way past their useful life. That was part of the plan. We're going to continue to have paper tickets where needed and where wanted. And all the while, we did this avoiding a 2-year delay with Cubic and saving $35 million. Ladies and gentlemen, this is better, faster, cheaper in action, and I am, as I said, incredibly proud of what the team figured out. The Omni solution that we were briefed on Monday speaks to the fact that the new MTA has developed the capacity to become a commercially sophisticated business organization led by people like Jesse Lazarus, like Jamie Torres-Springer, who negotiated that deal and shaped a very complicated 3-part business solution. Last month, we had a great presentation about TOD, transit-oriented development. And as we emphasized in that presentation, we're in keeping with Governor Hochul's pro-housing agenda, we're looking at every opportunity to jumpstart multifamily housing development on or adjacent to MTA properties, like the model projects you heard about in Westchester and Long Island. Today, we literally have 110+ projects in planning or development. But in other areas where we have land or property rights, and it's not a matter of just getting housing development, and there's an opportunity, we're going to use our leverage to get benefits for the public. And we're doing it in a way that I think shows off the MTA's emerging commercial chops. So let me talk about it for a second. Everybody knows about the success of the One Vanderbilt project, that project right adjacent to Grand Central on 42nd Street. It's a skyscraper developed using the new East Midtown zoning, and it delivered for the MTA $100 million+ in transit improvements. There's this major new entrance that's got an entrance to the subway, to the historic Grand Central, and also to Grand Central Madison. But less known, however, is the story of what happened with East Side Access and J.P. Morgan Chase. 20 years after that mega project began, J.P. Morgan Chase decided to tear down its old building at 270 Park and build a new headquarters building that was 1 million square feet larger. That meant they needed new foundations. And the way that those foundations had to work, I'm looking at Jamie because she knows the engineering, is that they had to actually come right through the concourse of the brand new Grand Central Madison project. And we had to redesign the whole thing. It literally was a complete redesign that was taking place. So as part of the negotiation to resolve that situation, everybody wanted JPMC to expand their employment in the city. But we got a package that was worth tens of millions of dollars, an airtight schedule commitment to repair the work that they had to take apart. And equally important, we secured their commitment. This is an emerging strategy to do millions and millions of dollars of work on the Grand Central train shed. You have heard from me and Jamie and others that this is tick-tock, a danger to the whole Metro-North system, that we have to rebuild this 100-year-old underground train shed where all the trains coming out of Grand Central go through, and the concrete is spalling, and years and decades of Water and chemicals in salt have caused it to deteriorate. Concrete and steel, water, salt, chemicals do not mix well. And we've started the Grand Central train shed rebuilding as a result of that negotiation. Now we're talking about expanding their work. They've got a construction operation fully mobilized, and we're talking about getting them to do more of that work since they're down there, hopefully in the near term, so we can, again, move more quickly to address the challenges of the train shed. On another front, as the board knows, our own former headquarters, 347 Madison, we have a deal with Boston Properties, who purchased an option some years ago to develop the site for a major office tower. But when COVID killed the office market, we renegotiated the deal to deliver public improvements irrespective of whether the office market was good for them. And Boston Properties was pressured, and we secured the commitment to agree to demolish the site fully and to build our new entrance to Grand Central Madison in advance of any office development. That work is getting underway next month. Rudin Management, another big New York real estate operator, is building another entrance for Grand Central Madison as part of their planned new building at 415 Madison. And that's an image of its post-demolition condition. There, we successfully negotiated for another entrance with penalties for delays. We're going to get this work done no matter what goes on in the real estate market. And up a few blocks on Park Avenue, it was recently announced by Mayor Adams at a Abney breakfast that Citadel, which is a big financial firm, is going to anchor a new mega skyscraper developed by Vornado and Rudin. And that too provides another opportunity to leverage our real estate position, in effect, our control of that underground area, to secure improvements to the Grand Central train shed, to our ventilation system and otherwise, and that negotiation is underway. So, off of Park Avenue, into the Bronx, there's a development happening on the Gun Hill Road bus depot. A new warehouse and distribution center is being built on half of the property, and we're going to get a brand new state-of-the-art depot on the other half. There is much more going on at MTA in the area of transit-oriented development, but I believe that these trends, in tandem with what you saw from the Omni team, Jesse and Jamie, on Monday, are representative of the fact that MTA is becoming a sophisticated business thinking agency that's delivering a lot for customers as a real estate developer and operator as well. So, on to presentations for today. We're going to hear special presentations on Phase 3. You heard a little bit about it from the podium. Phase 3 of the paratransit e-hail pilot. Rachel, who is the new VP of Paratransit, welcome Rachel, is going to be talking about that, and we're looking forward to that. I don't want to get ahead of your remarks, Rachel, but the short version is that we learned a ton from the first two phases, and we're putting those lessons to use in round 3 so we can get a better idea of what it will take to expand it to an even broader market of paratransit customers. Bottom line is that we're determined to deliver more and better service for the customers. Now that we have stabilized Access-a-Ride and the broker service that's part of it, we're moving on to give more on-demand capacity as well. And after that, you're going to hear a presentation from New York City Transit about efforts underway to combat subway fare evasion, an issue which, as everybody knows, I view as an existential threat, not only to the MTA, but also the long-term future of the city. There is not unlimited money in our governmental ecosystem to pay for the billions and billions that we collect in fares, and I am concerned that in the long run, it would also impact on our ability to maintain a growing capital program consistent with where the MTA needs to head. So we got to deal with the issue, and I'm thrilled that Chantal and Frank are going to talk about that a little bit today. Finally, before we turn it over to Rachel, I want to acknowledge that this is the last board meeting for MTA Auditor General Michelle Woods, who is retiring after 30 years. Michelle, there you are. Michelle has been an amazing partner for so many of us at the MTA, especially for MTA chairs, including myself, and we're going to miss her. So, Michelle, everybody wants to wish you Godspeed on this next chapter, and thank you for what you have done. And we also want to acknowledge, sitting next to you is your fantastic successor, Monica Murray. So with that, let me conclude and turn it over to Rachel.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chair Lieber. Thank you, members of the board. And thanks to all the members of the public who came this morning. I'm here today, as mentioned, to provide an update on our Access Ride service and to introduce our proposal for the next phase of our eHail on-demand pilot program. So as Chair Lieber just mentioned, it's important that we put on-demand eHail in context of where we are with the Access Ride service as a whole. And that's at performance and demand at historic highs. And I have to give a shout out and a thank you to Chris Pangolin, our outgoing VP, and the entire paratransit leadership and staff team, who are now on a daily basis delivering more than 35,000 scheduled trips. We're not just back to where we were pre-COVID, but we're exceeding pre-COVID highs. And we're doing it in a way that we continue to deliver historically high performance at the same time. And eHail is a piece of the puzzle, but it's really not the primary driver when we look across our service. On-demand accounts for about 2% of our overall trips, but when we talk to our customers and when we see how they vote with their feet and their voices, it's really reliable paratransit service that is the #1 driver of our customer demand and our customer satisfaction. We see increased ridership because people need paratransit, and we're increasingly effective in meeting that need. Our on-time performance is up, such that we're now actually tracking it to a 20-minute window instead of our historically required 30-minute window, and our vendors are rising to that challenge. And customers see the difference. If you look from our spring to our fall 2023 customers count survey, we had an 8% increase in customer satisfaction on on-time performance alone, and all of our other indicators, particularly of service reliability, are also trending in the right direction. That's also in part because we've scaled up our broker program, so we're now doing most of our trips with taxis and for-hire vehicles, and the vast majority of those are direct rides. So we're giving customers, eHail or not, reliable service, timely service on the vast majority of their trips, getting them where they need to go in the way that they want to get there. And that's not to say that some of the comments that we hear in this room and elsewhere are not real. Every time we get a complaint, we hear about an incident, we investigate it fully. If there's action to be taken, we do that. But we need to think about Access Ride, right, as a holistic program and how we manage eHail within that context. So we just wanted to provide that background as we get into the substance today. So within the context of this increasingly productive, increasingly reliable service, where does eHail on demand fit in? eHail adds that option for spontaneous travel above and beyond our increasingly reliable core service. Again, as you heard from several speakers here today. It's great for those really, truly spontaneous trips or the ones where flexibility is needed. And that's what we're aiming to make available to more of our customers while continuing to serve that increasingly large customer base who require or simply choose to continue to use our more traditional Access Ride service. We know what eHail is not. It's not what we saw in phase 1, where eHail became a single ride, free taxi service for those lucky few people who happened to raise their hands first. We learned from that part of the pilot, but what we didn't learn is where on-demand can fit in a sustainable paradigm for the future of paratransit. So we rethought the program. We started last summer, the second phase that you're all aware of, where we instituted reasonable limits on per-trip subsidy and monthly trips that customers could take on the eHail program. Phase 2 was effective, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. We added more providers, invited new folks to join the program, and got a lot of use. We also, however, heard from a lot of customers that were not interested in eHail. Of the 10,000 customers we invited to join phase 2 of the pilot, about 1,600 registered. And those who didn't had a lot of reasons to do so, but the #1 reason, and I quote, was, quote, "I am satisfied with my current Access Ride service." So we heard from a lot of customers that they prefer traveling door to door with a trained Access Ride driver. They like the certainty of knowing ahead of time when they're going to travel, at least on certain trips. Maybe they don't have access to or comfort with booking a trip by phone or with a credit card. So eHail is a great solution for some of our customers, but we need to think about it in context of our increasing demand and our requirements to provide ADA-compliant complimentary paratransit to all of our 150,000 plus Access-a-Ride customers. What we did learn from Phase 3 was also really good news. By and large, what we were trying to do with Phase 2 worked. We heard from customers that even with per-trip subsidy limits and monthly trip caps in place, the program was really valuable. And we saw in our data that customers were able to use eHail as that added option for certain trips, without it becoming the solution to every Access-a-Ride customer's every travel need. Our customer satisfaction was very high, over 80% with eHail Phase 2. That's in part because we added more vendors, including Uber and Lyft, and that increased our ability to do trips in the outer boroughs and with more wheelchair-accessible vehicles. If we're to scale eHail in the future to more Access-a-Ride customers, those are really critical learnings. At the same time, we reined in the unconstrained budget growth that we saw in Phase 1. We went from over $1 million a month in the eHail budget to around $400,000 a month, even as we added folks to the program. And we saw a really wide range of how people used eHail on demand in Phase 2. We saw a much more reasonable pattern across the customer base. There was some growth from some customers and also a lot of trip substitution. So people moving trips between traditional Access-a-Ride and eHail, finding the path that worked for them. For the folks who were new to Phase 2, the average for 2024 to date was taking about 20 total Access-a-Ride trips a month and split about evenly, actually, between eHail on demand and traditional Access-a-Ride. So we're learning with our customers, right, how this on-demand option can fit in to the overall paratransit model and fixed route as well. A lot of these customers use our zero-fare MetroCard program to take trips on subway and bus to supplement their paratransit usage. Our goal for Phase 2 was to demonstrate that we can offer an eHail program that was more sustainable and scalable and still had customer benefits, and we think we really delivered on that goal. So where do we go from here? Not surprisingly, the number one thing we heard from customers in Phase 2 was that we can make the program better, more attractive from them, if we gave a higher per-trip subsidy. That would allow customers to take more of their trips on eHail. In other words, that per-trip subsidy limit of $25 or $40 a trip was really creating an artificial constraint on how people could use eHail for their paratransit trips. So that's what we're really focused on and want to focus on in Phase 3. If that per-trip subsidy constraint were not there, how would eHail fit into the usage patterns of different types of Access-a-Ride customers? So we're proposing to lift the per-trip subsidy cap to $60 across the whole eHail program. We think that'll be a great benefit for our customers, and it will let us further test the hypothesis that we can continue to grow on demand while maintaining sufficient operational and budgetary support for that core Access-a-Ride service that does more than 35,000 trips now on a busy day. So just to be clear, we're proposing two primary changes from Phase 2 to Phase 3. The first is going to a single subsidy limit and increasing it across the board. So for any eHail trip, the MTA subsidy will cap out at $60 after the customer pays that upfront $4 initial copay, and that'll cover the vast majority of trips. The goal here is to create a reasonable limit around per-trip spending, but not for per-trip subsidy caps to be the driving factor in how people make their travel decisions. The second change is that customers will be part of either a 25 trip per month or 40 trip per month eHail program, and that's based on their demonstrated usage of Access-a-Ride in the recent past. We took into account both eHail on-demand trips and traditional Access-a-Ride trips in setting those limits. Again, we're trying to set a reasonable parameter to see how people use those trips that they've demonstrated they need to take with us. This lets us expand the on-demand offering, and it's consistent with how other cities who offer on-demand have structured their programs. We think it's a good way to meet our customers where they are, while understanding that people's travel needs do change over time in ways that are often hard to predict. So to recap, Phase 3 is really about, as the chair said, taking what we've learned through Phase 1 and Phase 2 and expanding it in a way that balances three factors: improved customer experience, particularly flexibility for the customers who travel with us most, continuing to responsibly manage our budget so that we can meet our service obligations and service needs, and looking toward a future where Access-a-Ride demand continues to grow and eHail can become a tool for some of our customers and also for us as an operation to manage that growth and continue to meet our ADA mandates and provide service to all of our customers. And just to conclude, where do we go from here? We're asking the board to vote on this proposal today, and if approved, we'll implement it starting in the coming weeks. Our goal is to roll over the 1,600 customers who are in eHealth today, starting on July 1st. So they would go into those 25 trip a month and 40 trip a month groups with the increase of $60 of the per trip subsidy cap. We'll monitor that over the summer to ensure that the operation is smooth and that the impact on service and on budget is as we would expect. And then we aim to expand in the fall to bring up to 800 additional people, or a 50% increase, onto the next phase of the on-demand program. We'll continue to be closely looking, of course, at performance, at demand, at budget impact, reporting back to the board and the transit committee, and looking forward really to continuing to improve this offering while we continue to also keep our eye on the service we provide to 99% of our customers every day. So we're eager to move this forward and continue the conversation. Thank you again for your time.
Okay. Well,
Hey, Chair Lieber,
questions?
could I add, hey, Jano, before we could go to a vote, can I add something to that?
Go ahead, please, Queen.
I just want to call some things out that Rachel mentioned there that I do not want people to get lost. Of the 150,000 paratransit customers that we have in our Access Ride program, 60,000 are active, and they comprise of those 35,000 trips a day that Rachel alluded to. You heard from Deborah Greif, one of our members, one of our paratransit customers, who it makes up of many who have said, I don't care for eHealth. Our dedicated and standard paratransit program is so good right now, either because it meets my needs, which an eHealth program wouldn't meet because they don't do door-to-door, they do curb-to-curb, and a lot of our customers not only have gotten accustomed to that door-to-door service, but need that extra service. We also heard from many others who said, the program has become so good, and we see that in the increase of numbers, over 5,000 trips more than we used to do before COVID in today's world. It's an amazing service that we're delivering. And the last point that I want to draw attention to is the fact that paratransit has now become a suite of options, which include 4 free trips a day for any of our paratransit customers, 8 if they have a PCA with them, a personal care attendant, our dedicated paratransit program, which continues to be unlimited. There are no caps on how many trips a customer in paratransit can do, and eHail for those who want it or need it. So there's no such thing as rationing service, and I know sometimes we hear from our friends in the advocacy community who are our usual suspect here, and we love to hear from them, but I do want to drive home that we have over 150,000 customers whom, by and large, 80% tell us that they are satisfied or with a satisfactory service or above satisfactory service in what they're getting from that, and that suite of options that we give them. So I am so proud of Rachel, of Chris, and the work that's happening in paratransit today.
Okay, thanks. Any questions or comments? Heda Mahaltis, Mira Joshi, Dan Garodnik.
So, Rachel, thank you very much on all the hard work everyone in the paratransit unit has put into this. But can you go back and explain to me, so by raising the per fare subsidy, we think we're going to save money? And how do we get to the 800 more people in the fall, which is a pure 50%, or?
So in terms of the projected cost, the projection or the estimate is that we'll be close to budget neutral on the move from phase 2 to phase 3. And if I said otherwise, I apologize. We are increasing the per trip subsidy cap, right? And what we've seen in phase 2 is that customers on average do exceed the subsidy cap, but not by a lot, by a couple dollars a trip. So if we pick up those additional costs on some of those trips, but we do transition at least some number of trips from dedicated carrier service to eHail, that's what gets us to that estimate of cost neutrality. But again, that's why we're first just moving our existing customers over, right, to test out that premise a little bit more fully. The 800, yes, it's about half of the customers that we have today, and it's similar in size to the number of customers that we brought on new in phase 2, and that was a good sample size to really help us understand how people who are new to on-demand across our different kinds of customer demographics use the program.
But there's an interesting point that kind of goes to what Q just said, which is that even in phase 2, as they were trying to grow the program and get new participants, the overwhelming majority of folks contacted said, no thanks, I'm satisfied with existing paratransit service, I don't need to move into on-demand. So that was, in some ways, it made it a little longer to get a full participant group, but it was a positive indication of the overall customer worldview on what's being provided. Mira.
Thank you very much, Rachel. That was excellent. I just had a couple quick questions. We're raising it to $60. What is it currently in phase 2?
So in phase 2, there are 2 groups. There's what we call the distance group, customers that have up to $40 in subsidy for up to 25 trips a month, and then a high volume group, which is sort of the reverse, up to 40 trips a month, subsidized at up to $25 a trip.
And of the 1,600 in phase 2, are they all active users?
They are not all active users. In any given month, about 1,200 are active users, but if you look across, all of phase 2, most but not all of those 1,600 have used eHail to some extent.
And what forms of outreach did you use in phase 2 and thoughts about changes you might make in phase 3? Because these are complicated concepts and
Yes.
transportation everybody gets nervous about. Change is difficult. So part of getting people to try it, which is an important part of the pilot, I think is in the outreach and communication methods that we use.
Sure. So for phase 2, we did both paper mail and email outreach. We found, I think, unsurprisingly, that the email outreach was more effective. We also, our comment line takes a lot of calls, walks people through the program, and we'll offer all of that again. One of the things that we saw was in phase 2, we really made a concerted effort to have a representative sample of customers. So we really tried to get folks who were not as active before, make sure we had representation from every borough. I think in phase 3, we'll see a little bit more of an opt-in. It's likely to be our most active customers that find eHail most attractive. But we'll continue to do, we have good channels to reach our customers through paper mail, through email, through social media, through our call line, and we'll avail ourselves of all those options.
And Rachel, you also consulted with the formal disability groups that are part of the team that we work with, correct?
Yep. Our Paratransit Advisory Committee, our Advisory Committee on Transit Accessibility, the Access-Ride Reform Group, they're all well aware of the proposal and where we're intending to go here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Dan was next, and then Midori Valdivia.
Thank you, and Rachel, congratulations to you and your team for moving this along significantly, and wish you the best on this next step. I had one question. In your presentation, you noted the 5 taxi and for-hire vehicle providers that are available. Is the MTA able to negotiate any bulk prices here for for-hire vehicle companies, or is the MTA and the customer paying the full freight here for each trip?
So in the on-demand pilot, the relationship is directly between the customer and the service provider. So, they're paying the service provider's rate for that trip. Part of the reason we brought on so many different providers is that people can look across the providers for any given trip, between Uber or Aero or any of the others. In our broker program, which is providing, booked ahead complimentary paratransit, that's negotiated pricing between the MTA and the contractors.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Valdivia.
Great. Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate it, and congratulations to you in your new role. Question around, in phase 2, you had the 25-trip program and the 40-trip program. What feedback have you gotten about that delineation? Because I think last time I kind of questioned whether we needed those 2 separate programs. What are the learnings you got out of that? And then I have a follow-up. Thank you.
Sure. So the number one thing we heard from customers across both programs was, again, that desire to have a higher per trip subsidy cap limit. Customers said that would let me travel further. I could move trips to eHail, right, that I'm taking with other modes today. And we see that as something that has a lot of positive potential. We heard less about the number of trips. Our average Access-Ride customer is traveling much less frequently than 25 times per month. So for phase 2 and also into phase 3, those 40 and 25 trip per month caps are really well, above and beyond the demonstrated need of the vast majority of our Access-Ride customers.
Great, thank you. And I'm fully in support of this proposal. I think it's taken us a while here to get to phase 3, and really, proud to see folks like our Chief Accessibility Officer and yourself shepherd this along. I think it's been a long time in coming, and I remember when the former board member, Veronica Vanderpool, now acting FTA administrator, was a big champion of this program. And so it's great to see this in fruition. So thank you so much for your careful attention to this, and I'll be interested in the outreach and engagement for phase 3. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you.
Okay, David Jones and then Dr. Rizzo.
Yeah, I really have to praise this presentation. It's extraordinary. But I guess a couple of us, Andrew Albert and I, have been here for a long time, me almost 10 years. And I think this is indicative, in talking to the advocates here who have come time out, they changed the attitude of the entire board of the MTA. 9 years ago, barely any interest whatsoever. Their constant and repeated testimony moved this board in a way that would be unimaginable 10 years ago. So I know I've been an advocate for almost 40 years, and I realize how standing before committees in Congress and in the Assembly and organizations seems like it's never going to be heard. But I think this is an indication you can change outcome in a dramatic way by constant pressure. Thank you for that.
Dr. Rizzo.
Here. That was a great comment, hard to follow. I just wanted to say kudos to Q, to Chris, and to Rachel. Really applaud this important next step in our quest to promote comprehensive transit equity. I would like to stress test Rachel's clairvoyance here. Can you tell us how many, from a scoping standpoint, how many phases you potentially anticipate that we will need, and where we could go with a phase 4?
I skipped my third time may not be the charm joke in the interest of time, but I'm not going to test my clairvoyance. My first time before the board here, I think that we've landed on something that we really do think is going to have significant benefits to our customer and be manageable from the MTA side. But I think we need to get into this next phase and see what customer behavior looks like. I will say our goal is to continue moving forward, right, in the direction that we've been moving.
Okay, and since we're all acknowledging this is Rachel's maiden voyage as the Paratransit VP, I just want to say, look at how strong the bench is at MTA. Chris Pangilinan did an amazing job as running Paratransit. Now he's running operations planning for the whole transit, for New York City Transit. And somebody of Rachel's caliber steps in, and we keep going, and that's great. Since we're talking about the bench at it seems like a good week to be talking about the bench at Transit, I would note. We're going to have a vote. Thank you. Let's move on to a presentation. We're going to come back to a vote when we do the voting business on the proposal, the paratransit proposal. But now we'd like to hear from Frank Joseph and Chantal Cabrera about the pressing issue of fare evasion and what New York City Transit is doing about that on the subways.
And Chair, before we go to Chantal and Frank, wanted to introduce the video to set the stage.
I omitted.
So as we
Fare evasion.
No, fare evasion has been a topic of discussion, especially with the commencement of the Blue Ribbon Panel. Subway team is here to provide an update, but we wanted to put together a video so everyone can sort of understand the large scope and challenges that we're facing and what we're doing.
Fare evasion is a real problem. We've seen a significant increase in fare and toll evasion throughout the system. Payment is required to ride subways, buses, and trains, as well as to cross bridges and tunnels. Fares and tolls pay for our employees and are critical to keep service running. That's why we're making concerted efforts to combat fare and toll evasion on multiple fronts. We're rolling out new digital ads all over the system to remind and educate riders about our programs for those that may not be able to afford the fare. Our reduced fare program and Fare Fares NYC both offer half-price subway and bus rides to those who meet eligibility guidelines. On subways, we're readjusting turnstiles and upgrading the fare gates to discourage fare evasion. We're also placing unarmed guards at the emergency exit gates and onboard buses to deter unpaid entry. The MTA PD and NYPD are out enforcing fare payment. On Metro North and Long Island Railroad, tickets must be activated before you board. If you don't pay the fare, you will be removed from the train and issued a summons. It could also lead to arrest. On bridges and tunnels, we're working with other agencies to crack down on ghost plates and persistent toll violators. When riders and motorists pay their fares and tolls, more money is available for us to improve transit by adding more service and creating a cleaner and safer system for all. Public transit is the most budget-friendly ride in town. We ask everyone to pay so everyone can ride. Every fare counts.
Thanks, and Shanifa, congrats to the customer service team. All these kind of, these informational videos are produced in-house, and the caliber is great, and we love what you're doing. So with that, over to you, Frank and Chantal.
All right. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Lieber, members of the board, colleagues, our customers. My name is Frank D. Joseph II. For those of you who do not know me, I am the Chief of Staff and Organizational Strategy for the Department of Subways. I'm joined today by Chantal Cabrera, Senior Director for Subways Coordination and Solutions. And today we're here to discuss our mitigation efforts around fare evasion. At its very core, fare evasion is an equity issue. And at the MTA, we have a moral obligation to our customers to address this issue. Transit is the very lifeblood of our city. New York, the city that never sleeps, only functions because of our complex and reliable subway system. Now, fare evasion is a crisis which threatens the future of transit. This issue does not just exist here in New York, it is all across North America and around the globe. However, for us at MTA, sitting still was not an option, and it still isn't. New Yorkers deserve more than the status quo. Coming out of the pandemic, Chair Lieber charged the team to tackle the issue of fare evasion aggressively, but recognized it must be done differently. In 2022, the MTA commissioned the Blue Ribbon Panel, led by co-chairs Rosemont Pierre-Louis and Roger Maldonado. This panel was comprised of industry experts, education officials, and social justice professionals, and they delved deeper into the root causes, impacts, and potential solutions for fare evasion. The goal? Combat fare evasion and promote fare compliance using creative approaches. The strategy fell into 4 buckets: equity, education, enforcement, and environment. On the equity front, our goal is to make sure that fare evasion is never a crime of poverty. We're working to ensure this by better supporting those who need help with the fare. On education, we're increasing our marketing campaigns, not just to deter people from evading the fare, but to help them understand the impacts of what they're doing. It adversely affects the service we provide. With enforcement, now look, we know that enforcement alone is not sufficient, but it is a necessary tool. We're coordinating closely with the NYPD and deploying resources to the stations and at the times with high levels of evasion. And with our environment, we're reimagining our physical entries and bringing new technologies into the system to help us address both the physical infrastructure and social norms. The Blue Ribbon Panel came out with extensive recommendations, some of which we are actively implementing and others still in progress. Here, in this slide, you see our co-chairs on New York 1 with Errol Lewis, highlighting the work of the panel because we know it's important to inform New Yorkers of the work that the team here at MTA is doing. Now, you may have seen one of our 15 customer service centers, which we have in our stations across all of the 5 boroughs. Well, I'm proud to say that you can now sign up for reduced fare and fair fare programs at those centers. Our reduced fare program is for those who are 65 and older or those with disabilities. Our Fair Fares program is available to those who with incomes up to 120% of federal poverty levels. Through our partnership with the mayor and the New York City Council, we were able to secure this impactful investment. And at the MTA, we're stepping up our outreach efforts to make sure all eligible New Yorkers are aware and can enroll. You may have seen some of our advertisements throughout the system or some of our tabling events that we've done in partnership with the city. And additionally, our station agents who you currently see outside of the booth can help New Yorkers apply. Part of having an equitable system also means having an affordable system. When we look at the cost of owning a car over the course of a year, on average, it is roughly $14,000, whereas public transit is roughly 15% of that cost. Yes, we've kept transit affordable. Since 2015, we've seen a 5% increase in our fares compared to a 29% increase in general inflation. Our affordable fares guarantee a father can drop his kids off to school, a patient can make it to her appointment, a coach can make it to practice, or a friend is able to go and see their loved ones. Now look, we understand that when customers see people evading the fare, it may symbolize a sense of disorder or even lawlessness. For us, that is unacceptable. We looked at which enforcement tools we can use to promote compliance, and by strengthening our partnerships with law enforcement and deploying our own MTA PD officers, we've seen a change, but that was a first step. In 2 years, we saw a 60% increase in summons, and in addition to traditional law enforcement, we followed the recommendations of the Blue Ribbon Panel to also increase civil law enforcement efforts. And you've seen this with our unarmed gate guards. Generally, we've seen a significant reduction in fare evasion at the stations that they're in. Why is that? Because as people want to go to the emergency exit, which they should not be utilizing if they do not need it, when they see an unarmed gate guard, it serves as a deterrent. So we want to continue these types of practices. Our riders can also be part of the solution. Do not be an enabler. If you see someone trying to evade the fare, for example, by coming through one of the gates, please do not help them. You are hurting the very system that we all depend on. And with that, I'll pass it on to Chantel, who will discuss some of our current and near-term solutions.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. With the rider experience in mind, we initiated several physical interventions at the fare control areas to make it easier to pay and harder to evade. First, as of August last year, we capped and replaced 713 gate locks to prevent the use of replicated keys for unauthorized access to the system. In partnership with the Department of State, to ensure all changes are permissible under code and not compromising on safety or accessibility, we are piloting delayed egress at 3 stations. Delayed egress is a locking feature that delays the opening of the emergency exit door. When someone engages the exit bar, there is a 15-second delay. Being that New Yorkers are always in a rush, this delay encourages riders to exit through the turnstiles, leaving the emergency free for actual emergencies as intended, without tangibly diminishing emergency egress capacity. We've also made design changes to the turnstile that stop the gear from turning fully, preventing people from shimmying through, also known as backcocking. Over 1,400 turnstiles have been modified at 105 stations, with the subway's goal to modify 60% of our turnstiles by the end of this year. In addition, we've also installed vertical metal fins on the cabinets of the turnstiles to deter our most athletic evaders from jumping over. This pilot is currently at 4 stations, and we plan to expand the initiative to include 49 more fins at additional stations. I'd like to show you a little video, and this is delayed egress in action. You can see here the customers attempting to use the gate for exit. And also, After activating the push bar, you can see the gate doesn't immediately open. This often frustrates them enough to leave through the turnstiles. If the video were working on my first appearance, you can see that these two use the adjacent gate exit, which doesn't have delayed egress, inadvertently letting in two individuals as well. So this is actually a perfect depiction of the reason why we're exploring delayed egress as a solution for evasion at the emergency exits. Last March, we began a new technology pilot by installing wide aisle gates at Atlantic Avenue Barclay Center and Sutphin Boulevard Archer Ave, and expanding to Astoria Boulevard and 34th Street Penn Station. Through our field observation and in response to your many TikTok and Instagram videos, we've made software and design changes along the way. We added interim barriers to deter sensor triggering. We tweaked the speed in which the paddle doors open and close, the force you can apply on the paddles to break through on entry, and we are now testing taller paddle prototypes in our lab. Hopefully this video works. You can see me in the lab actually testing the efficacy. We are determined to have fare gates that make paying easier, accessing the system easier, and evading the fare harder. So we continue to use this pilot to iterate and inform our fare gate needs of the future. In addition to physical interventions, we also recognize the real opportunity we have to engage our youth riders. In partnership with New York City Public Schools, we launched our very first student incentive program, Extra Credit, this Monday. To celebrate responsible ridership habits, students swiping their Metro cards to and from school and who have been in attendance all week will automatically enter a random draw to win a MetaQuest VR headset. Our hope is to create a buzz around swiping while encouraging regular usage. Building off Chancellor Banks' Blue Ribbon Panel participation, we hope to bring a holistic approach to promoting fare compliance that engages our youth, which is another example of how we're doing things thoughtfully and differently.
All right. Thank you, Chantel. The strategies our Blue Ribbon Panel laid out and the solutions curated by our Subways team is working. They are proven. At its foundation is equity intertwined with an appropriate level of enforcement, enhancement, and education. Frankly, these efforts are merely a start, and there's more work for us to do. The reality is that as we come up with solutions to ensure fair compliance, there are the bad actors who will look for new ways to fare evade, and there are those who will continue to enable them. Nevertheless, our commitment at MTA and the Department of Subways remains steadfast. Chantel mentioned things we're doing with our existing gates with the pilot, but we recognize that there's more to do. That is why in December 2023, we launched a request for information from industry experts to seek out a modern, secure, and accessible fare gate of the future. We received a number of submissions and are currently assessing the merits and feature of each proposal. We plan to move forward with in-lab testing this summer, advancing to in-system testing in 2025. And as we do this work, it is a reminder that our financial model depends on the fare our riders pay. Now with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jamie, who will talk more on some of our long-term solutions and C&D's efforts.
Thanks, Frank. I just want to say that, this is really an all MTA effort that has been joined. We're very proud to see our colleagues at the Department of Subways stepping up on all of these major initiatives. We have created a significant team working across all of the departments of MTA C&D. It's led by Kathy Lee, our Deputy Chief of Staff, who's sitting next to me here, to support those efforts. So as we look ahead to the next capital program, we've begun to prepare in a major way to modernize as much of the fare array as possible, and this is going to be one of our most important capital priorities going forward that we bring to the board in the capital program in the fall. So what are we doing? I want to step back for a second and say we're establishing a fare gate or evasion lab as a testing ground for new fare arrays and other compliance technology. That should be done soon. Frank and Chantel mentioned it, but I want to emphasize we're not waiting on the next capital program. We've ordered those new fare gates immediately. We will deploy them to 15 or more stations in the system this year. We've also just recently put out another procurement to other vendors to provide prototypes immediately that we can deploy and test in the system. And then looking ahead, as Frank said, we put out a request for information to pre-qualify firms to provide the fare array of the future. We got 12 good responses. We're moving forward on them. Lab testing on the most cutting edge technologies this summer, testing in the system in 2025, and then we're developing a long-term fare gate strategy that will be part of the 2025 to 29 capital program that will be before the board this fall. We expect to dedicate substantial resources to replacing fare arrays in the next capital plan once we've settled on a new technology for that. And really, that should pay for itself because the incremental revenue that we're going to get will help to support the evolution of the fare array in the system. So we're excited to move forward on all these fronts.
Thank you, Jamie. Now, the Blue Ribbon Panel did lay out a lot with the groundwork that they put in place to show us what an equitable system looks like, one where customers pay their fare and receive quality service. MTA leadership and the subways team continue to work diligently to build common consensus and deliver upon our mitigation efforts to increase fare compliance. This lifeblood of ours, the transit system, it is worth preserving. Thank you.
Neil Zuckerman, Blanca Lopez, David, did you have your hand up? David, Midori, Andrew Albert.
I feel like this is going to end up being what they say, a violent agreement among the group of us. So, but let's all say it. First of all, thank you very much for that presentation. That was inspiring to me of our efforts. I think we have what I would describe as a modern approach. A modern approach is one that has carrots and sticks together, acknowledging the issues and why this happens, but forcing ourselves to tackle it. It is a social issue, it's a safety issue, it's a financial issue. I loved your opening phrase, a moral obligation. I think that's absolutely right. It's a moral obligation. This is, I almost think this is this current generation's version of graffiti. When I was a kid, at least New York City was covered in graffiti everywhere, and some said that was art, and some said that was crime gone rampant. You can have your own opinions about it, but I think fare evasion has got a similar problem, and that you've identified its moral obligation that everyone has is critical. I do think it addresses, it forces a safety problem. I think it contributes to our safety issue that we have as a perception, not a reality. But most importantly, as the finance chair, I'm deeply appreciative of the focus on the financial means. As Jamie said, every dollar falls to our bottom line. And when you were dealing with if you include the buses, almost $1 billion problem, it's not there yet, but it's pretty significant. We know that when we raise fares on the public, we could easily not have to be as focused on fare increases if we were able to reduce fare evasion. And so ultimately, those who are paying are subsidizing those who are not paying. And so it's critical for us, critical to solve this problem across the organization. I thank you for your focus, Jamie, on the technologies, but ultimately, this is going to be about compliance and about the public caring deeply about the system in general. And I think we have a perception challenge. I know that there are other parts of the organization working to solve this as a perception, but I urge the members of the public out there listening to us who may or may not be listening, but as they do listen, I think we have to urge everyone to take this as a personal responsibility to pay, because we can create all the procedures we want, but the activities necessary on the ground, the individuals, it's almost that notion of, do you stop at the stoplight in the middle of the night when no one's watching? Well, in the United States, maybe we don't do as much as in other countries, but in this case, we need you to, as a member of the public, to pay your fare. Think about it. Who's watching? Well, if we're not watching, it's all inside of yourself to think about that. So thank you very much for what you're doing. Let's get the dollars back in the system. Thank you.
Ms. Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm glad to see that we continue to implement the recommendations from the Blue Ribbon Panel and that this report is not off to the wayside collecting dust. And I appreciate the multi-pronged approach. Would you be able to tell me what are the what documents do you need to apply for reduced fare or the Fair Fares program?
Sure. I'm happy to chime in on reduced fare. And by the way, reduced fare ecosystem is about 1.2 million customers, half of which are aging New Yorkers over the age of 65. Once you turn 65, you are eligible for reduced fare. And the other half are customers with disabilities who can bring us their documentation to verify that disability, and we're happy to reduce that.
Thank you, Q. And the reason why I ask is, well, would undocumented households and families, would they be able to apply for this? When we're talking about equity and affordability, I just want to make sure that we are not ignoring that population that could certainly benefit from these programs.
That's not being ignored. One of the changes that occurred, we now accept ID NYC as a form of identification to apply for these programs, and we have that being marketed extensively throughout the system and in partnership with our city agencies.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate the response.
There we go again. Now, I'm really appreciative. I was on that committee, and the depth of the work there, the fact that it's not laying on the shelf is critical. I guess my concern remains the real hemorrhaging still exists in the bus system. And as a proportion of the loss, that's always been of concern. When I started on the board, 10 years ago, it seems like only yesterday, when we were told the statistics on who was being stopped and arrested, it was 95% black and brown. As the video, I'm glad, shows, it's a universal problem. There's all over the place, and I think many of us have seen that. But I don't want to forget that, at least as far as I know today, you might see the same proportion of who's being stopped and who's arrested. So I'm worried about the equity issue continually. The fare evasion rates on buses are catastrophic. They're unbelievable. 35 to 50% last time I heard. Maybe that's not true anymore. But I think it's exacerbated, obviously, by the fact that during COVID, we had free bus service. And when that ended, certain communities said, I didn't pay it before, why should I pay it now? So I want us to look at this holistically. I don't want to reinforce the issue that this is black and brown young people jumping over turnstiles, which in the public imagination is what fare evasion consists of. I think it skews, first of all, the feeling of equity, but it also may not, lead us down paths that may not actually redound to monies coming back to the system to deal with this enormous hole we've developed because of fare evasion. So I want to be really crystal clear that we have to constantly look at that. Just a last thing on fair fares. I was very disturbed to hear, and this was just one news item, reported that migrants were being targeted for tab summonses and arrest. This has some catastrophic effects. For a migrant, they could be deported based on an arrest. But moreover, making those individuals at least avail themselves of half-price or no-price fares so they can go around the city trying to get work or health care or getting their kids to school. The problem is also because fair fares has been capped at 120%. If you're earning minimum wage in the city, you can't get fair fares. You're above that income level. And basically, in our discussions, off the record, I'm not going to, with HRA, they're saying that currently they feel the 120% really caps the system to people who are not working full time. The sweet spot of what we should be doing for working New Yorkers is to focus on the issue of the working poor. They're working at McDonald's, they're working at Starbucks. They're not doing fabulously well, and the cost of this expense of transportation has a direct impact on their way to get to school and then to do work, all these things. We should recognize that collectively we have to come up and get into the people who are the working poor of New York. Thanks.
Midori Valdivia.
Great. Thank you for the presentation. It's wonderful to see you both in the boardroom, so thank you for being here. I saw your 4 pillars of the presentation. I'd like to make a request. So similar to what Neil Zuckerman said, he said, this is about compliance. We talked about we want people to pay the fare. All of that is behavior change. So you're promoting behavior change. And there is a thing called behavioral science that you can deploy while you're looking at these interventions to ensure that it will actually change behavior. And I just wanted to highlight something that's going on in Bogota at Transmilenio with the mayor's office of Bogota. They have kind of an innovation lab, sounds similar to the lab that Jamie's talking about, but not necessarily with technologies in mind. What is the coupling of intervention that's technology? So I would love to hear if it's already a part of it, great, and I'd love to hear that. And if it's not, I'd love it for it to be included. What is our behavioral science perspective?
Yeah, I'll chime in and allow Chantel to delve deeper because she's more closely to this matter. We actually this week put out a request for information to look at, behavioral specialists and scientists to really work with us through this issue. And, even when we talk about, as Chantel mentioned during the presentation, we spoke about the draw that the students could go in, right? We're looking at culture, we're looking at social norms, and how can we change that? By encouraging them to swipe, we hope that can, tell them like, hey, this is what you should do. And we're really trying different approaches, but definitely would love to talk to you about that, and I'll allow Chantel to, expound a little more.
So I just wanted to add that I happen to be a licensed social worker who's worked with youth ages 17 to 24 in night school settings. That was a previous life of mine. So when this idea of committing a liaison to the DOE work was thought of, I was tapped for that particular reason. I've been a community education council member, a panel for education policy member, and I bring that lived experience into all of this. So in thinking about the social aspects, we really brought to the forefront the idea of changing culture with our young people. And that is, there's a different effort for adults who are stuck in their ways sometimes, but if we can really highlight civic responsibility, civic engagement, lift up opportunities for partnership with DYCD, those are all of the things that I'm trying to think through in these efforts, so it does not go unnoticed.
Wonderful, thank you, and please let us know if you need support from the City of New York on that. But that's really great, and it sounds like we have 2 great people for the task, so appreciate it.
Drew Albert, then Dr. Rizzo, and Norman Brown.
Thank you all for this presentation. Our transit system is the engine of equity for our area, and having massive fare hikes or service cuts does not help anybody. We must get everybody to pay their fare. I don't believe any group should be singled out. Whoever's beating the fare should be stopped. I don't care what division of humanity you are. I actually have had a talk with a few people who I've seen beat the fare, and we talked it over, and a couple actually went back out and paid the fare when I told them you could be risking service cuts or much higher fares. I obviously will not speak to everyone that I see doing that because that could be a dangerous proposition. But I'm really glad to see some of the initiatives. Those of us who came to the final report of the Blue Ribbon Panel on Fare Evasion saw some amazing turnstiles and gates, and it would be great to think that we're moving towards those. We all tried to beat those, and they were really difficult to beat. And some of the ones that Jamie showed in some of the video here look like some of those, and I think they will do great things. Now, you did mention a 30-second delay was put on the exit gate at some stations. 15 stations. While that's good, 15-second delay, sorry. Does anybody go around and check to see if the locks are working on those exit gates? Because I see people just not even pushing the thing, just pushing the gate itself, and it opens.
I'd like to respond to that. We do normally, our station agents are going out and checking on their normal rounds, and those locks do demagnetize. So it is on a one-off basis when we're doing that, but there is a holistic check to those gates. We understand it is an issue.
How frequently would you say that check is?
I will have to get back on you.
Thank you.
To that.
Thanks.
Dr. Rizzo and then Norman Brown.
Thanks so much for the presentation. I just wanted to start off by saying I'm categorically in support of these tactics to avoid fare evasion. But that said, I do have some accessibility concerns. Within the presentation itself, those delays for the emergency exit, particularly for those with physical disabilities and with motoric weakness, we have to think about stamina issues. And so I want to make sure we're really adopting universal design standards. Also, for those wide gates and the abbreviated open times, we have to think about those who may need additional time to traverse the gate, right? So I think it's really important, building off of what Midori mentioned with behavioral scientists, to make sure that we have accessibility specialists that are, built into these innovation labs, think tanks, and we're taking advantage of those thoughts.
So I happen to be the gate person also, and I will assure you that prior to Rachel's elevation, she was my go-to accessibility individual to make sure that we were taking into consideration in those exit timeouts and entry timeouts that is considered, and that is not lost on us at every time I'm in that lab. So I want to assure you that that's always a consideration.
I'll just add, we're really looking at this from a holistic standpoint, and the enhancements for curbing fare evasions are not coming at the expense of accessibility. Great question, and particularly to respond to your question on the AFAS gate and the need for access there, it actually really helps us try to curb the behavior of pushing that gate open by many people, including folks with disabilities. Those gates are designed to work with dipping the Metro cards or tapping the Metro cards for those exits so that they're automated and people aren't having to push the bar. So it really helps us curb that behavior that we see today. And all of those gates are automated and people are able to, again, tap their Omni card, their digital wallet, or dip their Metro card again to activate that exit. But really good question, and I will repeat, what we're doing for fare evasion is not coming at the expense of accessibility. We are undoing the wrongs of previous MTAs by delivering a truly accessible system and giving everybody a way to pay their fare.
Norman Brown.
Yeah, and I don't construe any of my normally cynical and sarcastic comments to be critical of you guys. It's a very difficult task you've taken on, one of the most difficult tasks there is on the MTA, to take, as Neil said, a moral, what was it, moral obligation and drop it on people in what is, to me, an increasingly amoral and somewhat antisocial society. I mean, people know what they're doing when they do that. And granted, a lot of poor people do it because they don't have any money. When I didn't have any money, perhaps I jumped over a couple of these turnstiles. And I don't mind that being, being disciplined for it. Now, but I question our ability to do this. So out of the 43,000, you said 43,000 busts a year on the, was that the number? 43,000 summonses?
Okay, yeah, I would say
so
we had a 60%
How many
increase.
of the 43,000 were on the bus system?
I can't speak for buses. I don't know if Frank would like to talk about that, but today we're here to talk about the subways.
Because we just started in the last 6 months having Eagle teams in numbers on the buses. It's a completely different situation. There's no question we are starting from scratch, but there's no reason to engage in comparison. We are trying to initiate, for the first time, a fare evasion enforcement model on the buses, but it's early days. Mr. Brown, you're absolutely right. But it's important to start with the subways because they do have tools and they have strategies, and that's what you're hearing about today.
True, and we have the ability to actually do something on the subways. I don't, and my issue is the relative enforceability of all the stuff we're doing. So out of the 43,000, I started looking at the number and, okay, so you basically, what you're saying is probably doesn't include a lot of bus summonses at the moment, because there has to be an eagle guy sitting there when the guy comes on, and I don't look at that as highly enforceable, but nonetheless, I apologize, I didn't bring my calculator today, but 43,000 people over 350 days a year, does that come to something like 115 a day?
I too did not bring my calculator. I will have to get back to you on that.
Well, I'm sure someone here does, and they'll correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like 115 a day, and to me, that is a entire drop in the bucket of what's going on. Not even a drop in the bucket, half a drop in the bucket. It's one thing to have carrots and sticks, but it's another thing to have carrots and twigs. So if it's only 115 a day, I suggest our problems were probably spinning our wheels. Now, I wasn't on a commission, and I have no quibble with the commission. I thought they did commission or blue ribbon thing. To me, they seem to do very good work. They brought up a lot of good ideas. But a lot of these systems where we compare ourselves to, they not only, and I agree, going after them on the subway is pretty much all we can do at the time being, especially as far as new equipment goes. But in a lot of these systems, the most successful systems I've ridden in the rest of the world, you have to swipe in and you have to swipe out. And that gives you twice the ability to catch whoever is violating. And I suggest that sort of thing will have more of an effect than 115 summonses a day throughout the system. Now, of those 43,000 summonses, how many got kicked by the judicial system? How many of them paid a price? How many of them even showed up in court? Do we know those numbers?
It's not a court system. We have the Transit Adjudication Bureau. It's usually dealt with through the mail, and we collect, apparently, I am told, about half of the fines that are assessed for.
All right.
So it's not through the criminal justice system. It's a tab civil summons, not dissimilar in some ways to a parking ticket, and we're collecting about half of them. But there's also work to be done to strengthen the tab process. I'll just point out, I don't want to interrupt you if you're on a roll.
No.
But the tab process is another area of potential that needs to be strengthened. We pursued with the governor's support and leadership a couple of equity-oriented initiatives vis-a-vis fare evasion in this year's budget. What we always say is, and you heard it from Frank, we never want fare evasion to be a crime of poverty. So what we're trying to do is to turn, people who fare evade a first or second time for whatever reason into customers. And one way we're doing that is to offer folks who do pay their fine an opportunity to get an Omni card, so they get part of the fine back, and they're motivated to become, it goes a little bit to behavioral science, although there's much more to that. We're trying to turn them into, so we have to strengthen the tab process. We're also looking at giving people warnings, so you get a first time, you don't get a fine, but a warning. But what I would say, Mr. Brown, is this is a fight that the MTA is engaged in all fronts. Your ideas about how we should change the payment system are among many, many things that are going to be looked at, because we have to win. We have to win, or else the system's gone. I mean, so what you're hearing is, some first-class people who are doing about 20 different things you heard about today to try to address the problem from many different angles. Demetrius Critchlow's over there, and these are folks who work for him, and he's a proud papa, because you see the caliber of the folks who are working. You see the partnership between the construction and capital program-oriented group, Jamie and Kathy Lee, and the Subways group. You're seeing implementation of a wide-ranging set of recommendations that the Blue Ribbon Panel, which was an amazing group that gave a substantial report. But this is a existential fight for us, and so we're going to be considering all kinds of things. Having to change the fare payment system to not a single payment, but also a payment on exit, is a maximal option that if we can't make progress with all this other stuff, maybe we will have to consider. But we're going to try a lot of other stuff first. behavioral, equity, and enforcement, and changing the physical fare gate. I want to say one other thing. When everyone's talking, I've said this 100 times, the fare gate, the exit gate has become the super highway of fare evasion. Why does that bother us so much? Because it's creating a generation of opportunistic fare evaders. I know there are people who jump over the turnstile or shimmy under and who have done it forever. But when you see somebody walk into a station and they've got their phone open with their Omni account, or they've got their Metro card in their hand, and they see someone pop the gate because they're just exiting, and they go for the gate, that's a person who probably plays by the rules in every other part of their life, but they've become an opportunistic fare evader. And that's where the problem has grown. It's not the kids jumping over the turnstiles that have grown. That has been a problem of some duration, to be honest. And we're trying to address it. God bless what Chantal is doing with Department of Education, trying to develop a civics curriculum to start to talk to New York City public school students about what their role is in New Yorkers, not just as subway customers, but in many ways. It's a great idea, and David Banks, the chancellor, is supporting it. But we got to crack down on this idea of people just opportunistically seeing an opportunity and going for it because they think no one cares, and they have, as you said, the conscience ain't there, right? The way it may have been in the past. I don't know. But that's our first priority, and that's why the gate is the battleground. Because when you open that gate, 20 people walk in. They're not, it's not a one-by-one back-cocking situation that you and I grew up seeing. It's 20 people walking in with Metro cards in their hands. So that's why we're going to fight the fight on the gate. That's why the delay matters so goddamn much. It's why we have to, we're working with our station agents to position them by the gate. That's why we put gate guards out there, because we got to stop the gate. Every time I see some rich person walk in, I said it before, with an $8 latte in their hand, wearing a suit, and walk through the gate with their Metro card in their hand, it burns me. And it should burn every New Yorker who cares about this system. So let's get serious. We're going to try everything to make a difference here.
Well, as regards my inability to tell between a judge and an administrative system, does that mean we have total control over the sticks, or we have to? Do we need legislation to strengthen our sticks? Get a hickory instead of
we've done a lot of. We've increased. There's a penalty. The penalty is going up for folks who are recidivist fare evaders. Again, thank you to the legislature and the governor for that leadership. But we're going to try to turn them into customers first. That's the message.
But it's entirely in our scope.
Thing is legislative, Norman.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So this is my point about the moral obligation. If the greater society really doesn't care about this stuff, how are we gonna get a stronger stick?
I don't accept that. I see everywhere I go, because occupational hazard people recognize me as working for the MTA. They tell me, "What are you doing about fare evasion?" New Yorkers are furious. People who play by the rules and depend on this system, they're furious at what they see, and we got to do something. We got to do everything we can to fight back.
I agree with you, and thank you very much for arguing with me in public.
Randy.
Yeah, excellent presentation. And Andrew was in the subway more than me, and we talk so frequently about how it infuriates us to see people who can pay that are not paying. So I'm glad to see that. The railroads, is anything you're involved with the railroads, or that's not in your ballpark?
We work for the Department of Subways.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else who wants to be heard on this topic? Okay, just a note, there's a ton that's also going on the railroads. I'm sorry, I missed that. Not for today, we're not going to talk about it today, but there's also a concerted effort on the railroads and a lot of different work and important work going on, and we'll get to that in due course. Mr. Mack.
Mr. Chair and the board, this is very, very important. Fare evasion creates the next step of crime. When you get away with a minor crime, you advance to a larger crime. Very simple. You remember my saying, you kill the golden goose? When your mother told you don't touch the hot stove, well, you did. Ow, you got burnt. You didn't do it again. Fare evasion is very important to this community and the safety of the system.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, unless there are any other comments or questions, we're going to turn, please.
The 3 stations you said you were going to pilot, 34th Street, Astoria Boulevard, what was the other one?
For which, for delayed egress?
Yes.
It's actually 138th Street, Flushing Avenue, and 59th and Lex for delayed egress.
Oh, what did I get, what did I get?
Those were
34th?
the WAG, the White Owl Gate pilot.
Oh, got it, okay. And timing?
Timing for?
All this?
That's a lot, there's a lot of all this.
Implementation, are we phasing it in?
So the 3 pilots are out, and they've been out for several months now. We are working, there's 2 types of code that we're working under, NFPA 130 and non-NFPA 130, which is 465 stations are under non.
Right.
So we are working on a consultant to do a system-wide study related to the larger batch.
Okay.
And we're also working to soon implement non-NFPA stations, 3 more. We're currently in the process of figuring that out now.
Okay, that was my question, okay, thank
So
you.
yeah, just a point of clarification, we're trying to grow the pilots on the 15-second delay well beyond the 3. And Jamie is pushing that issue with consultants and the Department of State.
Yeah, I'll just say, because as the chair said, we have so many things going on, it gets a little confusing, so let me just do it again. I'm just repeating what Chantel said, really, but delayed egress, we're going to do that in as many stations as we can. Our team has a consultant coming on board that's going to go through. We have spoken to the Department of State at the highest levels of the agency, and we are on the same page about getting that done, to Q's point, without unduly impacting accessibility in any way. So we're going to roll that out as quickly as we can to as many stations as we can. We're pushing hard on that. New what's called WAGs, the paddle gates, which are the replacement for the slam gate. That is that superhighway we're concerned about. That's 3 now. That's 3 now. Yeah. 4 now, with a full array at Jamaica Sutphin. We will have at least 15 stations done by the end of the year, probably more. And then all of this gets replaced in the next capital program by full modernization of the fare array, secure and accessible.
And the WAGs will be with the larger paddles and some other features that we learned from the initial pilot made it easier to circumvent. So there's some learning that's already going to be reflected in this pilot. Okay, on to the bureaucratic business of the board. We have a quorum, and I'll just ask for approval of the minutes. The minutes of the April board meeting and from each of the committees were distributed to the members. Corrections or omissions? Hearing none. The minutes are, anyone? The minutes are approved as distributed. We had a detailed presentation on the e-health proposal. I will make the motion. May I have a second? Dr. Rizzo, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The e-health Phase 3 action is approved. Now we go to let the record note that there was applause from the gallery, and that doesn't happen much. So, Mr. Mack, will you do the Bridges and Tunnels report?
Good morning. Bridges and Tunnels met on Monday, and there's nothing to report.
It happens. It happens. Okay, onward. On Monday, I convened a joint meeting of the Capital Program, New York City Transit, Long Island Road, and Metro North Railroad committees, the super committee of Lisa Dagley and fame. The Special Joint Committee of the Whole reports the following. There are three procurement actions this month. The first item is a modification action with Cubic Inc. for a credit of $36 million. The second and third items are two actions for a proposed expenditure of $231.2 million. The Committee of the Whole recommends these items, and I move them. Is there a second? Mr. Chu, thank you. All in favor of the items? Any opposition or abstention? Okay, the various Omni-related actions are approved. That concludes the Committee of the Whole report. Ms. Barbas, would you do the Audit Committee?
Sure. Chair, the Audit Committee met Monday and reports the following. There are two items for board approval. The first seeks board approval of the MTA 2023 year-end financial statements, and the second seeks approval of the investment compliance report. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
Is there a second? Mr. Fleischer, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition or abstention? The items carry.
This concludes the Audit Committee report.
Mr. Zuckerman,
Thank you,
Finance.
sir. Thank you, sir. The Finance Committee met on Monday and reports the following. There are 4 action items this month. The first, on behalf of Construction Development and the MTA Grand Central Madison Operating Company, requests board approval to award a competitive contract for the operation and maintenance of the new Grand Central Madison Terminal and related facility assets. The second action seeks board approval to launch a temporary fare pilot promotion for the Long Island Railroad and Metro North. The next action seeks approval of the refunding of outstanding Build America bonds, and the last action seeks board approval of our annual investment report for 2023 and the revised MTA all-agency investment guidelines. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
A lot of action in Finance. Ms. Barbas, the second. Any discussion, questions? Okay, I'll move it. All in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The Finance Committee items carry.
Thank you. There are no HQ procurements. However, we have 4 real estate items this month. The first is an administrative item for Metro North. The remaining 3 are transactional, including 2 for MTA and 1 for MTA Metro North. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
Is there a second? Dr. Rizzo, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The real estate items are approved.
Thank you. This concludes the Finance Committee report.
Okay, and that concludes today's MTA Board business. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Mahaltzis. A second from somebody? The item is moved. All in favor? We are in adjournment. Thank you.
What I do. This is my 18th year on the railroad. I love instructing, which is what I'm doing now. I'm instructing student engineers. I love operating as well, so when I can, I still do operate trains, and it's just a great job to have. My name is Inade Maruga Sr. I'm currently a locomotive engineer, special duty instructor. I've been with Metro North for 5 years now.
My name is Robert Sapari, and I'm a training officer, locomotive engineers for Metro North Railroad, and I've been with the MTA for 10 years. My earliest train memory is being in the train with my dad as he was operating. I'm second generation railroad. We actually operated around the same time just before he retired, so that's probably one of my biggest memories. Responsibilities for a locomotive engineer are vast. From dealing with your crews and having a job safety briefing, to checking your equipment and making sure all your safety checks are complete.
Safety plays a major role in what we do because of how many lives we're responsible for.
One of the coolest things you get to see when you're up front operating as an engineer is you'll get the best views. If there's a 4th of July, you'll see all the fireworks up and down the Hudson. You'll see eagles fly in and dip in and grab fish and fly right next to your cab.
It's cool to run the Yankees trains, especially when they win. See all those Yankee fans out there, to be able to bring them to and from the games. To just be operating the train through Harlem, to look on both sides and see the buildings and everything, it's just a great scene.
Knowing that my work is essential to keeping this city moving is a sense of great pride. It gives me great satisfaction knowing that I'm getting thousands of people to their destination safely, and they're relying on me to get to work.
I'm an engineer, and I run trains as an essential employee, moving essential employees. Through the pandemic, to be able to bring doctors and food workers, for us to be able to get them to and from their jobs safely, take a great sense of pride in being able to do that.
I take pride in my job now, and I really enjoy it. I am glad I became an engineer.
It's an amazing job. You know, it's a lot of responsibility, but at the end of the day, when I go home, you know, I'm happy with what I've done for the day at work. I know that I have a great job to come to, and I'm grateful for it.
What does a record do?
Hi, my name is Devin Mullen. I'm an assistant maintainer at the Verrazano Bridge, and I've been with Bridge and Tunnel Authority for 5 years now. Well, basically, we make sure that anything that happens on the bridge, whether it's a collision or a disabled vehicle, contractors working, we make sure everyone gets on and off the bridge safely. Any 5-minute delay turns into 20 minutes of traffic.
The city is busy. Rush hour is tough. Roadways are congested to begin with, so we want to make sure that we can keep those roadways clear, and that's, main function of a record driver. Every day they save the day. That little disabled vehicle, if that disabled vehicle is not removed, a lot of people are not getting to work in the morning. So their quick response is going to determine how the rest of the day is going to go for a lot of people. They are the go-to guys. We depend on them on a daily basis, and they perform their job very well.
Our truck is our main tool. We make sure it works well, and then it serves us well. The light duty wrecker is usually we use for flat tires, overheat, small vehicles. The medium duties, they're basically utility. Anything we need other than tractor trailers and heavy trucks. Anything that requires heavy boom lifting, winch outs, things like that, we're going to use the heavy wreckers. Working on the roadway, it's a dangerous condition. You have vehicles flying by you at 60 miles an hour. People aren't paying attention half the time, so you do run the risk of getting hit.
So they never know what's going to happen when they're up there. I mean, there's different types of, disables. There's all kinds of different vehicles. There's trucks. There's hazmat vehicles that are carrying chemicals. So there's always a challenge when they get up there.
We're first on scene a lot of the time. We just try to help people. We try to get the bridge moving, the traffic moving, get people where they got to go. And we try to get them there safely. It gives you a sense of responsibility, and it's satisfying at the end of the day to know that you are part of keeping this running and keeping everyone safe.
What does an electronic equipment maintainer do?
Paul Julian, electronic equipment maintainer. I've been in transit for 5 years. I work in the department of RSS, Radio and Security Systems. Our responsibility is to ensure that the radio system is functioning very efficiently, for that provides communication to the trains. It also provides crucial and important communication for the police in the system, the EMS in the system, and the fire department in the transit system. Also, the surveillance system must be maintained. Therefore, we can have proper security and proper recording of activities in the subway system. The intrusion alarm system must also be maintained. These security systems are responsible for preventing, and if it happens, to alert any breach, whether it's the breach of a door that has sensitive equipment beyond it, or whether someone enters the tunnel beyond the platform without permission. A key motivator in what we do is to know how important communication, surveillance, and security is to New York City Transit and New York City as a whole. That gives you a sense of duty and pride in doing what we do.
Hi, my name is Donna Charles. I am a station appearance maintainer. We basically maintain the appearance of restrooms, waiting rooms, platforms, sidewalks. We mop, sweep, dust, sanitize, salt, shovel snow, whatever it takes to keep our stations clean.
When you work a line job to go in between the stations, you take out a truck. We have cleaning supplies in it. Certain stations don't have facilities to keep the buckets and stuff like that, so there's always a bucket on the truck, a mop on the truck, and then basically we work out of the truck. And if we have to do quick graffiti removal or something like that, we have something to clean it up with.
I'm a platform cleaner. It makes me happy that my job is important because it's important to me to make sure that the people want to come back, that they have a clean place to come to.
My favorite part of being a station appearance maintainer is the general public, just getting their positive feedback. We had commuters just say, thank you, and we appreciate everything that you guys do, just making it safe for us to be out here to and from, work and home.
My work impacts the Long Island community because we just make it safe for the customer itself. We keep the conditions of all the stations clean, you don't want a dirty station. We do just more than cleaning. We help out in any way we can.
My favorite part of the job is meeting new people, the people I work with, experiencing new things. I like my job, and I wake up every morning and know that I have a great job to get to go to.
Hi, my name is Ryan Motley. I'm a stock worker here at East New York Depot. I've been with MTA Bus for 1 year, 4 months. As a stock worker, typical day in the job is issue parts to the maintenance facility. I process transactions. I do express issues, inter-unit transfers. I also help restock parts or receive parts from different manufacturers, give them their respective locations. We do cycle counts to find any discrepancies within our inventory also. Here at the East New York Depot, which is the central maintenance facility, we actually process a lot of parts for various depots.
Here in this stock room, it's a CMF, Central Maintenance Facility. Buses come in for major work, so we store bigger items, high dollar value items, engines, radiators, transmissions, generators, motors. Because when the buses come here, they're here for an extended period of time to get a complete overhaul. So whatever buses that are active in our fleet right now, we have the parts for it.
We also store cleaning products for our cleaners that are located in the depot to help them get their job done. We help the maintainers get the correct parts needed for the buses to make service. We have our regular chores of making sure that the stockroom is clean, no tripping hazards on the floor. That's one of our daily chores as stock workers to ensure the safety of the operation in the stockroom itself.
In order to be a good stock worker, one of the best qualities you need to have, the top ones are good retention, safety, responsibility. You want to have that kind of characteristic in you to try to do your best in everything you do and deliver the best. It makes me smile. It makes me feel good knowing that I work for a company where it has a lot to offer. We all play a different role in what we do to keep the buses rolling out.
Without these parts, these buses will be out of service and the customers would be upset. MTA basically moves New York, and that feels great to know that I work for a company like that.
What does a bus maintainer do?
My name is Perry Evel. I've been with the transit system for 8 years. I work at Casey Stengel Depot in Flushing, and I'm working as a BMB, which is a bus maintainer. My responsibilities are basically maintaining the buses, changing filters, oil, electrical, undercarriage, hydraulic system, cooling system. My main pick is brake system. We're specialized in brakes. I think our job is the most critical because if the bus don't stop, people will get hurt.
When an individual comes to New York City Transit as a maintainer, there's different training that they receive. So they'll get training on the bus from the front to the rear, electrical, diagnostics, body work, depending on what their title is.
You have to be a person that cares about your job. You have to be accurate in what you do, especially in my field, where I said, the brakes are very important. It's a safety issue. You check and you recheck, make sure that everything is done correct, and you make sure that your job is done very well. And I'm kind of a perfectionist too, so that helps.
I see our buses on the streets, picking up passengers, taking them where they need to go. Makes me feel proud knowing that they're in a safe bus.
Since I was young, I love mechanics. I never knew that this would have been my job. It's a great thing to work for the greatest city in the world and servicing millions of New Yorkers and people all over the world. It's a great privilege, and I think it's a great honor to work in this city and the biggest bus company in the world.
What does a depot bus dispatcher do?
My name is Veronica Torres. I'm a surface line dispatcher. I've been with Transit for 15 years, but I've been a dispatcher for about 6 months. Being a dispatcher is a big opportunity to broaden my experiences. I like working with people, so that also gives me an opportunity to interact with the bus operators and other people as well. From the time that the bus operators come to report, we have to make sure that they're in full uniform, that they're fit for duty. Then we also have to give them the buses to go out into service, make sure that the service is done on time, that the buses are safe and fully functional. Dispatchers that are outside on post are watching the buses, make sure that they run on time, making sure that the customers are okay, answering questions on the road, making sure safety and compliance is at 100.
We have the yard dispatchers, we have the crew dispatchers, and we have the general dispatchers. And these are all various functions. In addition to all these 3 functions, we also have the road dispatchers who goes out on the road to take care of the day-to-day activities on the road.
Patience and empathy make for a great dispatcher. Because I've been a bus operator for so long, I understand what it is that they do and what it entails, and I'm very empathetic to what their needs are. What we do is so important as a whole. Without the dispatchers' cohesiveness and working together, the bus operators also in unison with us, because we can't do our job without the bus operators also doing their job. So with everyone working together, it just makes for a smooth process.
What does a system operator do?
My name is Sejan Edi, BMT Chief System Operator. I have 27 years with New York City Transit. As a Chief System Operator, I'm in charge of the supplying of DC power, traction power.
The system operator's responsibility is to oversee all the third rail power that we provide to run the trains in the New York City Transit system. The way that we power up the third rail is we get electricity from Con Edison. We go through our substation, which is converting the AC from Con Edison's high voltage into 650 volt DC, and then from there going into the third rail, which power the trains.
A typical day for system operator involves general order. General order, or GO, it's a planned work outage. Normally they're working next to the third rail or nearby, so they want power off so they can work safely. Any emergency happens on the field, RCC give us a call to have a power off on a certain line, certain track.
The Power Control Center controls remotely all the equipment out on the field. This equipment that we control is called the MTU, which is the Master Terminal Units.
We take power off instantly by operating these buttons on the board. As for RCC requests, we normally take power off from gap to gap for emergencies. Red means the power is on. When it goes green, that means the power is off to that track. It's good to know that the work I do helps to keep the employees safe and the system moving.
I think if there are no customer service ambassadors, there would be lots and lots of people taking the wrong train.
A customer service ambassador is a frontline contact providing fast-changing, accurate information, especially during service disruptions.
We're here to direct you, assist you, and be patient as well.
The qualities that make a good customer service ambassador are patience, communication, following instructions, and just pretty much being a people person.
Getting lost in New York it's really easy. That's what we're here for, to help them. So every day, I show people how to use the phone. We have this app called Train Time. It tells you the time everything comes, schedule changes, tells you advanced scheduling as well in case you need to come in a week.
My most memorable day at work, we had an elderly woman come off of the airport. We assisted her to getting to her family, which was in another town. She had never been to New York before. She was completely lost. She thanked us several times, and I was able to help this woman get to her family. That's the motivation. Just helping people in general is seeing their face.
I like to help people a lot. You know, seeing people happy and getting to their place.
It makes me feel really happy, especially that I know they're getting to their destination safely. We serve with pride.
Sometimes the public may call us train drivers. Honestly, it doesn't bother me because I know they don't know. My name is Keisha Cole. I'm a train operator, and I've been with MTA for 6 years. I work on the 7 line. It's approximately 21 stops from Main Street to 34th Street, and it takes about 36 minutes from end to end.
My name is Jim Van Name. I'm a train operator for New York City Transit. I've been here about 3.5 years. I operate the train on the Q line, which end to end is approximately 44 stops, and it takes me about an hour to complete.
My earliest train memory is I was a kid. I got on the F train with my mom. The first time I was on the train, I was excited. It was fun.
I was raised on Staten Island, and my friends and I used to take Staten Island Ferry over to the city, and we used to ride the train all over the place. That's probably where I got my first love of the subways.
As a train operator, there are 2 different ways you can pick up your train. You can pick up your train in the yard as a put-in, which means you okay your train for service and bring it into the terminal station, which is the last stop on the train line. Or you can actually pick it up from the terminal station. When preparing my train for service, I do various checks to make sure it's safe for myself and for the public. Once my day starts, I have about 3 round trips. I take passengers from Main Street to 34th Street and back to Main Street. That's 1 round trip.
I start over at the yard, and then I have to do what we call a put-in. I have to prep the train for service, and then they send me out over to Stillwell Terminal, and then I go into service. I do my 2 trips up to 96th Street and back, and that pretty much completes my day. It usually takes anywhere from 8 to 8.5 hours. At the end of the day, the 2 ways of finishing the job is to just walk off the train at the terminal station at the last stop and just sign out and go home, or to do a layup, take the train from the terminal station back to the yard, lay it up, put it away for the evening, and go home from there.
I love the fact that I'm moving this big machine by myself. There have been times when I'm operating the train and I think that this is the greatest job ever. The things that I get to see when I'm going down the line and I'm seeing the sun come up, it's just so beautiful.
This is my dream job. I love this job. And some of the amazing moments I see in this job is when I'm going over the Manhattan Bridge, sometimes at sunrise to see the sun coming up, or even better, sunset, to see the sun setting behind the Manhattan Bridge is quite a sight. I pinch myself that I'm in such a great job and have that opportunity to see such great things.
I enjoy transporting people from place to place. It's just a good thing. I feel like I'm doing something special.
I love trains. I love operating the trains. I love being a part of New York City Transit. And knowing that I'm helping people get through their day and get to where they need to be gives me a lot of satisfaction.
My name is Winnie Espada. I'm a car appearance maintainer, and I've been doing this job for 10 years. I work out of Shea Yard. I was interested in helping the community, the public, so when our passengers get on the train, they'll see that I cleaned it. I'll feel good that I did the job, that they're comfortable and they don't have to worry about the mess because we took care of it.
Well, I always had a background in cleaning with janitorial work and also car detailing. So I came to the railroad and used my skills that I learned from there to help clean the trains. I like working on the train, working with the equipment. I always enjoy cleaning, so that's really it.
A typical day is thorough cleaning here in the EIC dock, where we take the seats apart, make sure the sides of the seats are clean from garbage. Any newspaper, cans that are left behind, we clean that up. clean the windows, we take care of the doors, we make sure that the engineer's cab is clean and ready for him to go for the day.
So we take pride in making sure we sanitize everything from the bathrooms itself and everything the customer put their hands on. So, it's very important to make sure we take care of our customers here. We sanitize everything.
My work is important because we have to make sure the trains are clean, especially in the times of the pandemic. We have to make sure the trains are disinfected and ready for all riders to be comfortable getting onto the train. There's a lot of anxiety going on right now with passengers and customers getting onto dirty trains. So our job is to keep everybody safe and keep everybody's head in the right place.
I actually love what I do. This is my 18th year on the railroad. I love instructing, which is what I'm doing now. I'm instructing student engineers. I love operating as well, so when I can, I still do operate trains, and it's just a great job to have. My name is Inade Maruga Sr. I'm currently a locomotive engineer, special duty instructor. I've been with Metro North for 5 years now.
My name is Robert Sapari, and I'm a training officer, locomotive engineer for Metro North Railroad, and I've been with the MTA for 10 years. My earliest train memory is being in the train with my dad as he was operating. I'm second generation railroad. We actually operated around the same time just before he retired, so that's probably one of my biggest memories. Responsibilities for a locomotive engineer are vast, from dealing with your crews and having a job safety briefing to checking your equipment and making sure all your safety checks are complete.
Safety plays a major role in what we do because of how many lives we're responsible for.
One of the coolest things you get to see when you're up front operating as an engineer is you'll get the best views. If there's a 4th of July, you'll see all the fireworks up and down the Hudson. You'll see eagles fly in and dip in and grab fish and fly right next to your cab.
It's cool to run the Yankees trains, especially when they win. See all those Yankee fans out there, to be able to bring them to and from the games. To just be operating the train through Harlem, to look on both sides and see the buildings and everything, it's just a great scene.
Knowing that my work is essential to keeping this city moving is a sense of great pride. It gives me great satisfaction knowing that I'm getting thousands of people to their destination safely, and they're relying on me to get to work.
I'm an engineer, and I run trains as an essential employee, moving essential employees. Through the pandemic, to be able to bring doctors and food workers, for us to be able to get them to and from their jobs safely, take a great sense of pride in being able to do that.
I take pride in my job now, and I really enjoy it. I am glad I became an engineer.
It's an amazing job. It's a lot of responsibility. But at the end of the day, when I go home, I'm happy with what I've done for the day at work. I know that I have a great job to come to, and I'm grateful for it.
What does a record do?
Hi, my name is Devin Mullen. I'm an assistant maintainer at the Verrazano Bridge, and I've been with Bridge and Tunnel Authority for 5 years now. Well, basically, we make sure that anything that happens on the bridge, whether it's a collision or a disabled vehicle, contractors working, we make sure everyone gets on and off the bridge safely. Any 5-minute delay turns into 20 minutes of traffic.
The city is busy. Rush hour is tough. Roadways are congested to begin with, so we want to make sure that we can keep those roadways clear, and that's main function of a record driver. Every day they save the day. That little disabled vehicle, if that disabled vehicle is not removed, a lot of people are not getting to work in the morning. So that quick response is going to determine how the rest of the day is going to go for a lot of people. They are the go-to guys. We depend on them on a daily basis, and they perform their job very well.
Our truck is our main tool. We make sure it works well, and then it serves us well. The light duty wrecker is usually we use for flat tires, overheat, small vehicles. The medium duties, they're basically utility. Anything we need other than tractor trailers and heavy trucks. Anything that requires heavy boom lifting, winch outs, things like that, we're going to use the heavy wreckers. Working on the roadway, it's a dangerous condition. You have vehicles flying by you at 60 miles an hour. People aren't paying attention half the time, so you do run the risk of getting hit.
So they never know what's going to happen when they're up there. I mean, there's different types of, disables, there's all kinds of different vehicles, there's trucks, there's hazmat vehicles that are carrying chemicals, so there's always a challenge when they get up there.
We're first on scene a lot of the time. We just try to help people. We try to get the bridge moving, the traffic moving, get people where they gotta go. And we try to get them there safely. It gives you a sense of responsibility, and it's satisfying at the end of the day to know that you are part of keeping this running and keeping everyone safe.
What does an electronic equipment maintainer do?
Paul Julian, electronic equipment maintainer. I've been in transit for 5 years. I work in the department of RSS, Radio and Security Systems. Our responsibility is to ensure that the radio system is functioning very efficiently, for that provides communication to the trains. It also provides crucial and important communication for the police in the system, the EMS in the system, and the fire department in the transit system. Also, the surveillance system must be maintained. Therefore, we can have proper security and proper recording of activities in the subway system. The intrusion alarm system must also be maintained. These security systems are responsible for preventing, and if it happens, to alert any breach, whether it's the breach of a door that has sensitive equipment beyond it, or whether someone enters the tunnel beyond the platform without permission. A key motivator in what we do is to know how important communication, surveillance, and security is to New York City Transit and New York City as a whole. That gives you a sense of duty and pride in doing what we do.
Hi, my name is Donna Charles. I am a station appearance maintainer. We basically maintain the appearance of restrooms, waiting rooms, platforms, sidewalks. We mop, sweep, dust, sanitize, salt, shovel snow, whatever it takes to keep our stations clean.
When you work a line job to go in between the stations, you take out a truck. We have cleaning supplies in it. Certain stations don't have facilities to keep the buckets and stuff like that, so there's always a bucket on the truck, a mop on the truck, and then basically we work out of the truck. And if we have to do quick graffiti removal or something like that, we have something to clean it up with.
I'm a platform cleaner. It makes me happy that my job is important because it's important to me to make sure that the people want to come back, that they have a clean place to come to.
My favorite part of being a station appearance maintainer is the general public, just getting their positive feedback. We had commuters just say, thank you, and we appreciate everything that you guys do, just making it safe for us to be out here to and from, work and home.
My work impacts the Long Island community because we just make it safe for the customer itself. We keep the conditions of all the stations clean, You don't want a dirty station. We do just more than cleaning. We help out in any way we can.
My favorite part of the job is meeting new people, the people I work with, experiencing new things. I like my job, and I wake up every morning and know that I have a great job to get to go to.
Hi, my name is Ryan Motley. I'm a stock worker here at East New York Depot. I've been with MTA Bus for 1 year, 4 months. As a stock worker, typical day in the job is issue parts to the maintenance facility. I process transactions. I do express issues, inter-unit transfers. I also help. We stock parts, we receive parts from different manufacturers, give them their respective locations. We do cycle counts to find any discrepancies within our inventory also. Here at the East New York Depot, which is the central maintenance facility, we actually process a lot of parts for various depots.
Here in this stock room, it's a CMF, Central Maintenance Facility. Buses come in for major work, so we store bigger items, high dollar value items, engines, radiators, transmissions, generators, motors. Because when the buses come here, they're here for an extended period of time to get a complete overhaul. So whatever buses that are active in our fleet right now, we have the parts for it.
We also store cleaning products for our cleaners that are located in the depot to help them get their job done. We help the maintainers get the correct parts needed for the buses to make service. You know, we have our regular chores of making sure that the stockroom is clean, no tripping hazards on the floor. That's one of our daily chores as stock workers to ensure the safety of the operation in the stockroom itself.
In order to be a good stock worker, one of the best qualities you need to have, the top ones are good retention, safety, responsibility. You know, you want to have that kind of characteristic in you to try to do your best in everything you do and deliver the best. You know, it makes me smile. It makes me feel good knowing that I work for a company where has a lot to offer. We all play a different role in what we do to keep the buses rolling out.
Without these parts, these buses will be out of service and the customers would be upset. MTA basically moves New York, and that feels great to know that I work for a company like that.
What does a bus maintainer do?
My name is Perry Evel. I've been with the transit system for 8 years. I work at Casey Stengel Depot in Flushing, and I'm working as a BMB, which is a bus maintainer. My responsibilities are basically maintaining the buses, changing filters, oil, electrical, undercarriage, hydraulic system, cooling system. My main pick is brake system. We're specialized in brakes. I think our job is the most critical because if the bus don't stop, people will get hurt.
When an individual comes to New York City Transit as a maintainer, there's different training that they receive. So they'll get training on the bus from the front to the rear, electrical, diagnostics, body work, depending on what their title is.
You have to be a person that cares about your job. You have to be accurate in what you do, especially in my field, where I said, you know, the brakes are very important. It's a safety issue. You check and you recheck, make sure that everything is done correct, and you make sure that your job is done very well. And I'm kind of a perfectionist too, so that helps.
I see our buses on the streets, picking up passengers, taking them where they need to go. Makes me feel proud knowing that they're in a safe bus.
Since I was young, I love mechanics. I never knew that this would have been my job. It's a great thing to work for the greatest city in the world and servicing millions of New Yorkers and people all over the world. It's a great privilege, and I think it's a great honor to work in this city and the biggest bus company in the world.
What does a depot bus dispatcher do?
My name is Veronica Torres. I'm a
Lieber.
Cologne's already dreaming of next season. It's like the old Brooklyn Dodgers. So it's good. It's good. That's loyalty. I know it's sorry? So I wanted to just ask a couple folks. Jesse, stop schmoozing. Come on up. Frank, Chantal, Reed, come on up. We heard, I just wanted to say we heard a lot of presentations over the Monday and today, and you guys were fantastic. And in front of our friends, or at least acquaintances in the press, wanted to say I'm very proud of what the MTA team and what you guys represent in terms of the professionalism that we all bring to it at all levels of the organization. And we're going to keep going on the issues that you have worked so hard on. So thank you. Just a little moment of applause from all of us. All right, get out of here. I do my press conference. All right. Okay, Tim, go ahead.
All right, just noting for the people who are joining us on Zoom today, there are several reporters. Put the hand raise thing up if you want to ask a question. Start with Dave Cologne of Streets Blog. You get called out in the opening remarks. Dave, you get the first question. Go.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I had a couple for you, Jano. One, I guess both involving fares and collecting fares and all these things that you love talking about, I guess. The one is in the presentation today.
It seems so irrelevant, right? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
In the presentation today, there was a mention about redesigning fare raise, how it's going to be in the 25-29 capital plan. And it does seem like a big part of this issue is that the fare arrays are easy to get around, but fixing them in a capital project seems like it would take quite a while. I mean, are we stuck having this conversation for like 10 more years?
Well, a couple of things. One, the only responsible thing to do is to take action when you see a weakness in the system that is part of the problem. And we recognize, all of us, I mean, I grew up in New York where you saw people backcocking, you saw sometimes people jump over. What we did not see was mass numbers of people going through the exit gate, what we used to call the slam gate. And that's become, I always say it, the superhighway of fare evasion. It has now, it's reached a level where what I'm most passionate about is people who don't break the rules in other areas of their life becoming opportunistic fare evaders. I went on about this in the board meeting. We got to deal with the gate. We got to deal with people who are holding a Metro card or their Omni open in their hand and then see the gate open and go for it. And that's why you heard a lot of focus on closing the gate. There will be people who jump over the turnstile. There will be people who in, Ann Taylor suits who do the limbo under. But we got to stop the practice of opening the gate and 20 people coming in. That's a lot of what you heard from us, and we're going to keep going to deal with that special and somewhat a problem that is new in scale. It's not entirely new, but it's definitely new in scale.
As part of the redesigned fare gate attempt in the
we're gonna exactly. I mean, Jamie's got a selection process going for new fare gate vendor, which is a massive decision. But in the meantime, what are we doing, Dave? Just to reiterate, we're putting those unarmed gate guards there who just discourage people from improperly opening the gate. We've put this, we're piloting delays so people actually observe what the sign says. Do not exit here except in an emergency. We're really trying to stop this, and we've also started installing these WAGs, the wide aisle gates, which both improve accessibility, but when properly. When the new versions are implemented, so far we've seen significant improvements in fare payments. So we got a lot of issues directed at stopping the bleeding through the slam gate or the exit gate.
And then on the commuter railroads, I don't know if you want to answer this. I don't know if Jamie wants to answer this. On Monday, when everybody was going over the Omni update, Jamie mentioned that gated railroad stations, you tap in with Omni or some other way, they wouldn't be practical. Is the reason that the MTA isn't doing them. And, this is something I think that other railroads around the world have kind of figured out. It's something that systems even around the country have figured out. Where's the can-do spirit at Capital Construction to kind of figure out a way to
there are
get
open
a better,
jobs, and we encourage you to apply.
I know so much about engineering. It would just you would fire me in a day. But what is stopping the MTA from kind of rethinking entirely how you're collecting fares on the commuter railroads?
Well, I'm happy for Jamie to come up, but I'll say that don't discount the fact that there is significant piloting of gating going on at Penn Station. Rob has done a good job in implementing that. Kathy's done some of that as well. We're trying to figure out if we can improve fare payment, even if we don't check every ticket. If you do a gating, especially when there are events and there's a surge of people, and that has historically been, a problem fare collection environment. So we're not entirely giving up on gating. What I think I'll let Jamie explain what he meant by that.
Okay. I think the important thing is we came to the board this week with a strategy for the best integrated ticket and fare collection system that we could come up with collectively that would suit the needs of riders in our system. And you heard at the committee meeting on Monday that the treatment of that on the railroads is Train Time, which gets a 4.9 stars on the App Store. People love using Train Time. We have all kinds of integrated elements of that they use, and that's the way that we're going to provision a ticket in the future on the railroads and be able to create an interface or integration between Train Time ticketing and ticketing on the subways and the buses. And it's the best strategy for going forward. It can be delivered most quickly, it can be delivered with the least risk, and will be the best solution to please our riders, and we're very proud of that. That's where we went this week with the board.
All right, let's move on to Andrew Siff of WNBC. Andrew.
I just punctuated by saying, we're listening to the riders, and the riders love Train Time, and they don't want to be forced into another system. So, I hope that comes through eventually to the folks who are writing about this.
Mr. Chairman, how are you? What is the current percentage of people who are not paying the fare on buses, and in particular, what is it in the Bronx?
Okay, I can't answer that question. I can say with some confidence that we're in the subways, we're in the sort of 13%, seem to be about in 13% range. It is much higher on buses, and you're not wrong that the Bronx has a high level. I don't know those numbers offhand. I'm not even certain that we have that specifics. But the big picture, Andrew, is we're losing at least $700 million a year to this based on the first quarter estimate that I've seen, the estimates, which are by no means final. And we got to attack the problem. That's what you saw today is we're attacking the problem on fare evasion on many, many different fronts. We're trying to improve people's understanding of why they have to pay, to motivate them to pay. We're trying to help young people get more tools to pay. We're trying to deal with people who are truly below the poverty line, make sure they have a discount. But for everybody else who can pay, especially the really well-off people who think about taking a freebie, we're going to make sure that there's enforcement, and we're going to do physical barriers to discourage you from stealing from New York. Period, end.
Just as a quick follow-up, one of the board members said that the bus evasion was between 30 and 50%. You're not disputing.
No, those numbers are, which is a wide range, but those numbers are not far off. What seems to have happened is people got out of the habit of paying during COVID when we closed the front door to protect the bus operators and let everybody get on the back and not pay. And we have never gotten back to the levels of payment that we were at before COVID. I am concerned that we're reaching a tipping point where, like I say, people who play by the rules in every other part of their lives are not paying on the bus. And we've started to put unarmed revenue enforcement agents on that, and we're going to have to come up with other mechanisms to discourage bus fare evasion because it hurts everybody.
When you say a tipping point, you mean basically the culture has decided that buses are free?
No, I'd say that a lot more people who otherwise play by the rules seem to be taking a freebie on the bus, and that's not okay, and we have to turn that around.
All right, moving on now, we're going to Zoom, where Anna Lay of the New York Times is standing by. Anna, you're up.
How's everybody? Jana, I wanted to ask about congestion pricing. Can you talk about where things stand with the Federal Highway Administration and the final approvals that are necessary to get congestion pricing started on time?
Okay, so I think you know this, Anna, but the environmental assessment document was done with a wide range of scenarios. When the MTA board adopted the final tolling structure, we had to do analysis, a lot of data and modeling for federal highways to confirm or reconfirm that the new tolling structure had fell within the parameters of the environmental assessment and that their approval was would be reconfirmed. We've submitted all that data to the Federal Highway Administration, and they're reviewing it. And I don't know exactly when they're going to give us the okay, but the expectation is they will take action on it well before the 30th of June.
All right, let's move, stay on Zoom, go to Jose Martinez, who is standing by from the city. Jose.
Hello there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Jano. Last week, we had a story in thecity.nyc about cancellations on the express bus routes because of a shortage of train operators. About 80% of the trips that have been canceled, I believe it was this year, are because of a shortage of operators. So what is going on in terms of the hiring? And centrally to that, will the MTA's express bus service be ready for what is expected to be an influx of riders come the start of congestion pricing?
Okay, so Jose, you know, since you are in the habit of delving into data, I know you also got to look at the capacity of the usage on the express buses. It's about in the 40 to 50% range. So we have plenty of room, and please convey that on the express buses. So I'll defer to Frank on the question of service delivery percentages for express buses.
So right now we're aggressively hiring bus operators. We're actually bringing in approximately 100 bus operators every 2 weeks. So we are ready, we will be ready for congestion pricing. As Jano mentioned, we have ample capacity, and we're ready to meet whatever demand comes our way. And again, it's not only about bus operators, vacancies. They're day to day we have to adjust through availability issues, right? If you have a little bit more people call out, you adjust your trips. But we're confident we'll be good for the end of June.
And next up is Samantha Liebman of New York One. Sam, right here in front of you, sir.
Good afternoon, Jano. So we haven't gotten figures on the monetary losses for last year. I know you mentioned the 700 million figure for fare evasion, which is also the estimate for 2022. I mean, do we have new figures, especially for the buses and the subways for 2023?
So I can tell you what we know. The first quarter of 2024, the preliminary estimate for subways is about 360. I'm pretty sure. Yes. No, I'm sorry. 90 million for the quarter. It would be 360 for the year. So, and the I would say even more preliminary estimate for buses is it's about the same. So that's why, Sam, I say it's at least 700 million. It may be upwards of that, but the preliminary estimates would put it in that $700 to $800 million range.
That's the projection for 2024 you're talking
Correct.
about. Okay. And also, your reaction to this May 15th letter you received from several Queens electeds about not boosting Queens bus service when they secured some money in the budget process to do just that. There was some disappointment that only Staten Island and Brooklyn routes got boosted, but not Queens. Is that still in the works?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is that what the action that the legislature took was to allocate some money from the outer borough transportation account for additional bus service. As far as I know, it wasn't specified which borough. What our team did was to use the data on where there is more demand, especially at the shoulders of service, like late at night and early in the morning, to add more trips where there was the most demand, where there were the opportunity for accommodating additional customers. Now, none of the express buses are overcrowded, but where there is more demand is where our team elected to put it, which I think is the scientific approach. That said, taking another look at Queens, those folks who wrote to us are big transit supporters, and we want to make sure that we're meeting the need. I would just add a couple things. One is the Queens transit riders have gotten a big boost from all that extra Long Island Railroad service that's going through Queens. John Lew's district, for example, includes Bayside and Flushing, Main Street, Long Island Railroad stops. We've dramatically cut the fares and dramatically increased the volume of service there. And so the availability of extra service, in addition to looking at the availability of seats in express buses and demand, was also a factor. The extra service that's being provided on other modes. We're confident we can accommodate whoever in Queens wants to switch from driving to transit. And I just remind all of us, you got to look at the EA. The projected numbers are very, very manageable in the context of our huge mass transit system.
All right, let's take a question from the balcony. Up there is Greg Mocker from Pix 11 standing by. Greg.
Afternoon, Chairman. A fare evasion question. Do you think the agency is meeting the problem with the urgency of $700 million? Some of these ideas were presented last year. They're being tested at a handful of stations. Is there a way to expedite, maybe to Dave's question about the fare gate model of the future is something, but how about now?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the answer is everything that can be done is being done. We have dramatically increased enforcement. There's 60% more summonses being given out than there were just 2 years ago. So dramatic upsurge in enforcement. We've deployed gate guards like crazy, and at some expense. We are hiring people, unarmed gate guards, to block the gate so people do not pop it open and let 10 people in, which is the principal new dangerous development in the area of fare evasion. There are some things, however, that do take a little time to implement. That putting a delay on that exit gate, which will stop people just pushing it open as an exit and making it available for fare evaders, requires the approval of the fire code authorities of the state of New York. That's what is taking a little bit of time. If you had, were up to me, we would put the delay on every goddamn gate immediately. But we have to make sure that, and satisfy the professionals, that we're not inhibiting exiting in scenarios that fire safety is an issue. So we're attacking this 100 miles an hour, and we're going to keep doing it because this is an issue, not just of money, but it's an issue of kind of the principle, the cohesiveness and spirit of New York. People are getting demoralized who play by the rules because they see somebody else breaking the rules, and we can't have that. New York is about sharing public space and working together, and we just can't live with people stealing from each other.
All right, let's go back to Zoom one more time. Steve Nesson from WNYC and Gothamist standing by. Steve.
Hey, Chair. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today, but I have two questions for you, if you'd be so kind. One is about the WAGs. You said, I think I heard they're coming to more than 15 stations. I'm curious, how much is it going to cost to install them? And then do you think it's worth it if you're only going to have to rip them out and replace them with the newer ones in the near future?
Well, one, it's worth it not just for the fare evasion that they will stop, but also for our ability to learn about how to manage the issue of time. When you're dealing with a different technology and system than the old turnstiles. You're dealing with these paddles that open. And how do you time them to deter people from what they call piggybacking, a second person trying to crowd in when one pays? Learning about how to utilize this new technology and how to program those things is really important. We learn from the ones that have been installed so far. Now we want to learn. They have much better versions of those gates, but we want to continue to learn as we are making a decision about which model we're going to put in the whole system. So I think it's going to pay for itself, but it will also pay for itself in terms of the expertise it will allow us to develop. It makes sense.
And sorry, one follow-up question. Well, you didn't say how
and
much
just a
it's gonna cost.
clarification, Steve. Our decision about how many of those to install, how quickly, is largely based on how many gates are available in the marketplace that they can be shipped right now, ASAP. Our attitude is we got to move as fast as possible on all fronts. So we're buying everything we can, even if it's not a total transformation.
And my other question is, with 4 presidents of New York City Transit in 4 years, do you believe the MTA has a retention problem for that position? And if not, why not? It seems like it does.
I do not think we have a retention problem. Listen, when you bring talented people into an agency, they're going to get noticed. It's a reality of life. I think that anybody who's been working in the same job for 20 years and hasn't gotten noticed, maybe that's not a great thing. So we have first, we have an opportunity we will continue to bring in great people who will be noticed elsewhere in the industry, and if it involves great opportunities in their hometown, I'm going to celebrate for them. And the spirit, as I think we showed today and on Monday with the folks who did the presentation, is we got a great next man up or next woman up situation. We have a lot of talent up and down the agency, and we're going to continue to move forward. So I'm optimistic, and sort of in the words of Pat Foy, reject the premise of the question.
And the next question is from Ben Brockfeld of AM New York. Ben, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jano. Just to follow up on what you just said, are you confirming that Rich Davey is leaving the agency? And where is he right now?
Okay, so Rich let us know late last night he had a medical issue, so that's why he's not here. He participated by Zoom. And Ben, sometimes it falls to me to take issue with your questions. My response is, do you really think I'm confirming before the decision has been made by Massport that he's leaving? The answer is no.
Only if you turn on your microphone, Ben.
Sorry. So I wanted to ask, you were mentioning on the egress, it was you had previously said it would be 30 seconds. Today it was 15 seconds.
If I said 30 seconds, that was an error. I don't think I said that. I think today somebody said 30 seconds and everybody yelled 15 at them. I think that's what happened today. But if we got it wrong before, so be it.
Well, anyway, are you has the fire department or the state code authorities identified to you any safety concerns about this delay in egress?
Well, like I said, Ben, we went through a process. It was one of the reasons it's taken a little while to get to a pilot. We went to a process of making sure they were comfortable that it would not compromise safety in any way. That process concluded. They gave us permission for the 3 pilots, and now we're moving forward with a process to get permission to go much bigger.
All right, we move down to the East Coast now, where Evan Simko-Bednarski from the New York Daily News is standing by patiently. Evan.
Good afternoon, Jenna. So the Taxi and Limousine Commission sent a letter out to medallion holders and livery bases yesterday saying functionally that if the folks who run livery bases, the folks who run the meters, the meter companies, don't sign an agreement with the MTA ahead of congestion pricing, then their cars will effectively be tolled as any other ordinary car, the $15 a day rate. I understand that at least the meter companies, Arrow and Curb, are not yet signing on, and that there's some back and forth about a potential service fee with the MTA. I'm wondering if, given how hard I think a lot of people here at the TMRB fought to make sure that the price was passed on to customers in taxi and FHV situations. Can you comment on that? Are you confident you'll get there?
So I think this is like all the other discounts that were recommended by the TMRB. There is a low-income discount. It requires completion of paperwork. There's a disability discount, which is actually in the law. It requires completion of some paperwork to get the discount. The TMRB also recommended, in effect, a discount for taxis and FHVs so that it would be a per-ride charge that could easily be passed on to the customer rather than the normal $15 a day fee, which the industry wanted. The FHV and taxi industry really wanted it as a per-ride charge rather than a single daily fee, and that requires some paperwork. This is just like the other discounts in that respect. And we're just letting the taxi and FHV folks who drive know that we need folks who are going to be responsible for the interactions with the MTA and the collection of the money to have agreed to the process. So it's just another, I don't want to say bureaucratic, but another sort of paperwork process, and we're sharing the information so no one gets surprised.
And so you're confident that this will be resolved in time?
I don't see why not. I mean, the drivers themselves are the ones we're trying to help, and we just don't want them to get stuck if the company that is responsible for processing this for their own reasons does not execute an agreement. Maybe some of them will choose to move to another meter company or otherwise. We want the drivers to get the benefit of what is, in effect, a discount that the industry really pushed for.
Is the MTA open to paying a nominal service fee to these companies?
I don't think that's called for because there are a lot of taxes and fees that are already collected through these meters, and it's been done before, so there's no reason this should be different.
Thank you.
All right, and over there is Alfonso Castillo of Newsday. Alfonso.
Hello, and I'll point out I've got 25 years next month.
I noted that. I was aware of that.
Yes, and I'm happy and fulfilled and noticed. A couple of questions related to Omni and Fair Media. Kind of following Dave's question earlier about the signal that fair gating, a tap-and-go system will never come to Long Island Railroad. And on top of that, sort of doubling down on the old paper ticketing system, buying all these new machines, a pretty big procurement. Why this commitment to this old paper media on the Long Island Railroad? From your own numbers, it sounds like relatively few people, 30%, are using it. And is any of that potentially any pressure being put on by the conductors' unions concerned about their job security?
Tim, can you imagine if we took away paper tickets and how quickly Alfonso would be on the platforms asking people how angry they were?
I absolutely
would, yes. 15 minutes.
Okay.
You're correct. I would do that.
Okay, can you imagine if we took away train time, the one contactless fare payment system that the riders have told us in every possible way that they love, how quickly Alfonso would be on the platforms at Jamaica or Valley Stream
minutes,
probably asking people how much they hated the MTA?
Indeed. I would be doing my job, yes.
Yeah, okay. So in answer to your question, yeah, we pursued, guilty as charged. We actually listened to our customers and we responded to what they told us, which is they love train time. There are a few people who are committed to, as you call the old time system of paper tickets, where some of them are unbanked people who rely on kind of cash transactions and otherwise. But what I think, and I actually think that you got your story this week got it wrong, so we sent a letter, if I'm not mistaken, to Newsday, which for some reason they haven't printed. And I'm going to ask Jesse to just recap what we actually gave people through this transaction.
Yeah, thanks. Hi. So in 2017, the MTA entered into a contract with a scope to deliver a contactless modern fare payment system to the railroads. A few things have happened since 2018, which we recounted on Monday, but a big one was the digital payments, the contactless payments industry. Visa didn't even issue contactless cards in earnest until 2018, and a year later that number had tripled. So that's a major macro environmental change outside of the MTA's control, but much to customer satisfaction and customers' benefit. The second thing that happened is that the MTA actually became a pioneer in government technology for mobile ticketing for the railroads, and customers voted with their fares, with their feet. They overwhelmingly embraced train time. So the difference here is that we're doubling down on train time, and we're giving customers additional integrations to connect with other modes in train time, the app they know and love already. And that's a recognition of trends and changes that have happened outside of the MTA's walls and within that benefit customers and really put them at the center of what we're doing. So it is a bit unconventional, I think, for government to be so nimble and responsive on the tech side, but we're very proud to be doubling down on what's working for customers and what's working for our technology platforms today.
Can I ask another Omni-related question? I don't know if it'd be for you or Jano, but on the, I think you call them affiliate systems, right? We're concerned with Nassau and Nice Bus. I've spoken to folks over there, and they suggest they're sort of ready to go and waiting. And I don't think they blame the MTA for this. But what is the holdup, and what is the timeline to bring Omni to Nice?
Yeah, so with the MetroCard affiliates who are now going to have contactless payment through Cubic, there are a handful of agreements and technical deliverables that I think Jamie talked you through the rebaseline schedule to get it done. So we'll be onboarding all of them by the end of this year or early next. And the exciting part is that contactless payment is available across all modes and with all affiliates per the schedule we showed you on Monday.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jano, Jesse, Frank, Jamie. Good afternoon, everybody, from Lower Manhattan.